Friday morning. So you are somebody who is doing everything right, and the schedule's running, the content maybe is going out, your kids are taken care of, clients are covered, your prayer is happening, and you're reading day in and day out, you're showing up faithfully. Nothing about your day-to-day has stopped, right? And something about that, the fact that nothing has stopped, is the exact thing that has you worn down to a place that you don't even have the words for yet. So real quick, as you guys are coming in, which one are you this morning? Are you A, you showed up today running on fumes, but you're here? Maybe you're B, like you're okay, but something has been sitting with you. Or maybe you're C, you just genuinely don't know how you feel yet. You can drop A, B, or C in the comments. A, I showed up, but I'm running on fumes. B, I'm okay, but there's something sitting with me. Or C, I just genuinely don't know how to feel yet. Good morning as you're coming in. I'll ask you guys here again in a little bit, but good morning. I pray you guys are having a beautiful day, and we're going to get started here soon. All right, we are in Exodus 21 through 23 today. So here's what I want you to know about where we're going today, where we're going to be talking about today. I want you to envision yourself as a woman who checked out, right? Maybe that's some of you here today. Like you just never stopped checking in on others. Like you hear everybody, right? Your client texts you at 9 p.m., you read it. Your kid needs something and you pivot. Maybe your community has a question and you show up. You genuinely are in it, right? You mean all of the care that you give, but your prayers have become a lot smaller. They say like, God guide me, God provide, God just be near. Those are real prayers, and they're also the prayers of a woman who's been taking care of everything and everyone for so long that she lost track of what she actually needs. So I want to know today, what's the first word that comes to mind when I say this? What do you actually need right now? What do you need right now? Not what you think you should need, the actual thing, just one word. Something else has potentially been sitting with you that you haven't put into words yet. Like maybe you don't know. You don't know if what you've been faithful to is actually going to lead you somewhere. You said yes to whatever it is that God called you to, and you showed up, and you keep going day in and day out. You have been walking forward every single day with half information, half of the information that you probably wish you had, and you're building without a blueprint. You're making decisions in the dark, and you're calling it your faith. That is the question Exodus 21 through 23 answers. We're going to find out exactly where that is in the text today. So we're going to be here for 2 hours. I invite you to stay with me, and good morning. Good morning. If you are new here, let us know. We want to welcome you in, and I say good morning to each and every one of you as you're coming in. Good morning. If I haven't said it to you, I do have a question. As you all are coming in, I want to know what your day has looked like for you this morning. Are you somebody that showed up today and you're running on fumes? If that's you, put an A in the comments. If you are okay, but something's been sitting with you, put a B. And if you just genuinely don't know how you feel yet, put a C. Okay? A, B, or C. Ruby, welcome. If I haven't welcomed you in personally, welcome to each and every one of you. We're going to get started here in just a little bit. And good morning. I want to know what your names are, if it's different than your username. I want to get to know you by name as much as I can. Are you A, you're just showing up today running on fumes? You are B, you are okay, but something's been sitting with you? Or C, you just genuinely don't know how to feel yet? Good morning, Teresa and Max. I want to let you know up front, we're going to be covering 3 chapters today, and I'm going to repeat this again right before we get started fully into the text, because we're going to be covering a lot of ground. So what that means is I'm actually going to be doing things a little bit different today. I want to make today fun. I don't want you falling asleep as you're listening to me. I want to keep it engaging and fun today. So it's going to be, not that our previous Bible studies are not fun, but today I'm asking for active participation from you. I normally don't, but we are covering 3 chapters today. I'm going to be checking in with you guys consistently. So there's going to be a lot of participation in the sense of I'm going to give you a lot to think about today, a lot to answer for, like to participate with me in this. So this today is not a passive watch. Every time I ask a question, can you guys do me a favor? Keep the comments coming in. Okay? It keeps us both engaged, and it keeps me from talking to myself for 2 hours. So I say that because the reason why we are covering 3 chapters today is most of our Bibles actually have a chapter break in between Exodus 21, 22, and 23, right? Most of us read it like that. But here's something that I don't think most people know. Those chapter numbers were added by an English archbishop in 1227 AD. That's more than 2,000 years after Moses wrote this down. Okay, so he didn't stop talking between what we call chapter 21 and 22. Moses didn't take a break. That is actually one continuous speech from God. We have been reading it in pieces when it's always been meant to be read as the whole thing. So that's why we are doing 3 chapters today. When you read it as a whole, it creates a clear picture. God is building a justice system around a person who has nothing, okay? Then he stops in the middle of his own legal code to say who he is. So he closes the entire document with a promise. He says, I am already ahead of you. The place is prepared. That is one movement. It is law to character to promise. That's how we're going to read it this morning. So I welcome you all in. My name is Vanessa. We're going to get started here. I do this Bible study every Monday through Friday, and I go through verse by verse through scripture every weekday. We got started at 9, so you are just joining in right on time. I go slow into the text. I go deep inside of what it says to relate it back to our day-to-day. I don't want scripture just to be something that you read and it doesn't relate to you. You read it as a historical book. And while it is that, I want it to hit right here. I want you to know the character of God in a depth that I pray gives you comfort and allows you to come into this space and it feel like a place that you can exhale. Okay? We don't leave the text until it's reached something real. So, what are you guys drinking this morning? What are you guys drinking this morning? What are you doing this morning? Are you in here and you're just at work? Are you somebody that you have your coffee, your tea, your greens? Grab whatever you have. And you can drop your name too. Where you're watching from, whatever that looks like. I just love knowing who is in the room and what you guys are doing. We are going to be in Exodus 21 through 23, and I'm going to explain more depth again why we are going into that. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and get started with our prayer. Invite Holy Spirit in, and I'm going to pray over each and every one of you. Before you guys came in, I asked you, I want to know how your morning's been. Are you showing up today running on fumes? You're A. Are you B? You're okay, but something's been sitting with you? Or are you C? You genuinely do not know how to feel yet. Okay? I ask that because I'm going to pray over that as well. But I want to know what your prayers are this morning. Okay? Heavenly Father, thank you for today. I have a feeling that it'll be a beautiful Friday. Even if our day didn't start out how we envisioned it, Father, I pray that you turn it around, that you give us a peace that surpasses all of our understanding, especially in the circumstances that some of us might find ourselves in. I thank you for being that guide for us. Thank you for walking with us through every step of the way. I pray that today is a reminder to those that are caring for others and forgetting to care about themselves. I pray that your word shows them that every part of our day matters to you, that it matters to you that we are a priority in our lives as well, that you see the care that we give to others. We know that you go ahead of us and that you make a way, even in the struggle. Even if it feels like nobody else around sees what we're doing, we know that you see it. Please let today be that reminder. Father, I pray as we go through this, we have fun, that you give me the wisdom and the knowledge and the discernment. I pray that this is a space that if you are new, that you know and can feel the Holy Spirit here with you. So please be with us here today, Father. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. All right, so we are going to get into it. I love to start with a recap and just kind of to bring you guys back up to speed. If you are new here, that is totally fine. If you are like, I love this, but I really want to get caught up, I have the replays for every single one of you. On the bottom left of your screen, you'll see a gold icon. I have a gift for you. I also have all the replays. You guys can get all of that in. Okay, so before I get started, one of the things that I want to remind some of you, if you were here in the beginning of, and then tell some of you if you are new or like just joining in, we are going to read from Exodus 21 through 23 today. There is a very specific reason for that. So the way that scripture is actually written, you know how you see the chapters, right? You see the chapters in each one of them. We're going to be covering 3 of them together today, and we're going to be covering a lot of ground. We normally just read 1. We're going to read 3. So because of that, I'm going to be checking in with you consistently, like constantly, right? Today is not going to be a passive watch. I'm inviting you to participate the whole time. So I'm going to be asking more questions. I'm inviting you into deeper thought and just some fun ones, okay? So every time I do that, I invite you to participate with us. It keeps you awake. It keeps me from talking to myself only for the next 2 hours. All right? But the reason why we're reading 3 today, we're going to be reading in Exodus 21, 22, and 23. Because here's something that a lot of us don't know. There are chapter numbers that were added by an English archbishop in 1227 AD. This happened more than 2,000 years after Moses wrote it down. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that God didn't actually stop talking in between these chapters. Moses didn't take a break. This is actually one continuous speech from God. So most of us read it individually when it's meant to be read as the whole thing. And when you read it in that way, it shows up very clearly what God is talking about. So I'm going to do my best to break it down. I invite you to ask any questions as well. So yesterday, we were in Exodus 20. How many of you were here with me yesterday? God spoke the 10 commandments directly into Israel from the mountain. He used his own voice. There was no mediator, which I thought, like when we went into the depth of this, I loved it. I loved seeing what the 10 commandments mean, aside from how we just usually read them, right? He used his own voice. He came down to us. The first thing that came out of his mouth wasn't a command. It was a statement about what he already did. He said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. He reminded them of the relationship before he gave any sort of instruction. These were people who had just spent about 400 years being told what to do by somebody who didn't care whether they lived or passed away. That was the life that they lived for longer than, that's the only life that any of them ever knew. And God opens up with, here's who I am to you. Here's what I already did for you. I bring you up to speed because this matters for what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be through all 3 chapters of the law, and it's written by the same God who led with that. So Moses walked into the darkness where God was, and God kept talking. I want to know, has God ever reminded you of something that he already did right before he asked something hard of you? And I'm sure in the moment you probably didn't remember, but he does that if we're paying attention. He reminds us of what he's already done for us right before he asks of something hard. Have you guys ever recognized that he's done that for you? It could be yes or no. It doesn't matter to me either way. I would probably say no. I don't think I'm paying enough attention if I'm being entirely honest. Because when I'm in the hard, it's already hard, and I'm like, oh, I'm focused on the hard. But he does that. He does that if we stop enough to look, right? All right. So the fact that I mentioned, right, that we're going to be going in Exodus 21 through 23, Do you know who added those? Do you know who added the chapters? Was it Moses, King David, or somebody else entirely? I'm just curious if you guys know. I laid it out for you, but I'm going to describe it a little bit more. Do you think it was Moses, King David, or somebody else? Okay, I'm going to ask you to drop your guesses in the comments, and then we're going to go into it, okay? We are going to start with Exodus 21. And these chapters were written by an archbishop. His name was Stephen Langton, and he added them in 1227 AD. Okay, that was more than 2,000 years after Moses wrote this down. He didn't write it with any breaks, and God didn't stop talking. Scholars actually call this the Book of the Covenant. It moves in one arc. It goes from law to character to promise. That arc is what we're following today. Okay. So, I'm going to read through 21. So pay attention because it's going to be a little bit of a different variation, but you guys keep coming in the comments. Put your prayers, put your thoughts, your revelations. Okay. All right. So 21 is, now that there are judgments which you shall set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and in the servant he shall go out free and pay nothing. If he comes out by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and he has bore him sons and daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Okay? So, in this piece, I'm going to stop here for just a second, okay? When we first, in the first part of Exodus 21, it says, now these. But in the original Hebrew, this sentence actually starts with a connecting word. I want you to think of that word like and, okay? Like it continues. So when it says, now these are the judgments, think of it like and. It's a continuation of what we just talked about the 10 Commandments. The translators, they chose now because it sounds more natural in English. Okay? But the original, it's doing something more specific. It's making sure that you know that this is not a new conversation. God didn't finish the 10 Commandments and then change the subject. He kept on going. So this section is the continuation of everything that he said in Exodus 20 with the 10 Commandments. I want you to think of it this way. If the 10 Commandments were the values that God laid out, here I am, here's how I operate, here's what matters, then what's coming next is what those values actually look like in real life, not in theory. So when people are like actually conflicted, or when there's a conflict, or when somebody gets hurt, or when a person in power, or like when one person's in power and another person doesn't have that same power, chapter 21 is God showing Moses what his values look like when they hit the ground. Yes, he was giving them a layout. Okay? How many of you have ever had somebody tell you what they were going to do? Let me ask you this again. Has anybody ever told you who they were before they told you what they expected from you? I don't think I've ever had somebody in my life say, this is who I am, now here's what I expect from you. I haven't. Not that I can remember. I feel like that would have stood out to me if somebody was like, hello, my name is so-and-so. Here's what I expect from you now. I'd be like, excuse me? So, this very first situation is actually addressing a servant. This part is not about a king or a judge or even a business owner. Okay? It is about a servant. It is a person at the very bottom of the social structure. I want you to feel how significant this is, okay? God just spoke from a mountain that was on fire. And the entire nation of Israel, they were standing at the base of that mountain and they were trembling. There was thunder and lightning and smoke, and God's own voice was in the air, which was probably one of the most dramatic moments in the history of their nation, right? And he follows up by talking about how to treat the person with the least power in the room. It never ceases to amaze me how much God sees. How, he doesn't, our modern world is always looking out for the people of influence, right? The ones that have power. That's what we tend to look towards. God is like, I want the one with the least. I want the one that's hiding behind, that's been mistreated, that's been in the background, that's been invisible to the rest of the world. I want to speak to you. He didn't start at the top and then work his way down. He started at the bottom. I think that tells us everything about who he is. Here's why he started here, though. So when you go back to how God opened up the 10 Commandments, the very first thing that he said before any rule or any instruction, it was, I am the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That was his opening line. It was a reminder of where Israel actually came from. And it's a reminder of what it felt like to be owned by somebody who didn't care whether or not they lived or passed away. He's saying, I know what you've been through, and I want to show you that's not, I want to show you who I actually am. And now the first person that he protects in his legal code is somebody in that same position. He held a mirror to their experience, and he wrote that first rule. He said, I know what it costs to be that person. I'm actually writing this law so that that person never has to go through that with you. Let's change it. Let's not repeat it, right? You know what it feels like. Let's change it. That right there, to me, is the heart of God. He doesn't write these abstract principles that are just so unattainable for us and then leave people to figure out how to apply it. He looks at the most exposed person in the room and he builds a protection around them. He does that first before anything else. Before property, before courts, before any sort of civic administration, the person with nothing gets the law written around them first. So I want to bring this to how this applies to us in our day-to-day, right? How many of us are building something? It was written by a bishop, Bootleg, thank you. His name was Stephen. How many of you are building something? You are showing up every single day. You're producing content, you're managing clients, you're running a household, you're pouring into a community, into your clients, into your people, into your employees, whatever that looks like, right? I don't know what that looks like for you in your day-to-day, but I'm sure that most days it feels like you're the one holding everything up. You're the one with the weight on your shoulders. You're the one who cannot afford to stop going. I want you to look at what God just did. He just looked at the person in the most exposed position, the one that had no options and no leverage, nobody advocating for them. And he wrote the weight of the law on their side first. That's how he operates. The person who feels like they're the most exposed is the person that he moves towards first. So when it feels like you're out there and there's no net under you with no guarantees, like I'm out here working and I'm doing everything I can to support my family. I'm doing my best to take care of them, to take care of myself. You fill in the blank, right? You have no guarantees that what you are doing day in and day out is even going to work, that anybody even sees how much you're carrying. That is not the person that God overlooks. I want to bring you back into scripture, into Exodus, right? I think it was Exodus 19 where we covered the fact that God is right there underneath you, that he is that eagle for us, right? He protects us. He's there underneath us, guiding us as we're navigating these things because they're all new to us. Okay? That is not a God who overlooks. He is right there. That is a God who built an entire legal system. around this one individual, this one demographic of people. I want to tell you what the law actually said about servants, because it was unlike anything else in the world at that time. So every other nation surrounding Israel, a servant was property. There was no time limit on how long they served. So there were no protections for how they were treated. You owned them in the same way that you owned furniture. That was normal to them. That was actually what was expected. That's how every single legal system around them operated. Okay? And then God wrote something entirely different. The servant gets a time limit. He says 6 years maximum. So after 6 years, they're going to be free. There's no negotiation. You can't extend it, and there are no conditions around it. It is 6 years, and then they're going to go. And then when they do leave, they're not going to leave empty-handed. Okay? The law, it actually required that they be sent out with provision. He wanted them to have food and resources. He wanted them to have something to start their new life with. He wanted them to leave with something in their hands. That was revolutionary at that time. There was no other legal code in the ancient world that had anything else like that. I think that's incredible. That is incredible that God said, I'm going to cover you when nobody else is. So I'm going to invite you to drop a number, okay? So I can see where you are at in this. Is it 1? I have been in a season where I feel like I have had no options and I just had to keep going. Is it 2? I am in that season right now. Or 3? I have never felt that way before. Is it 1? I've been in a season where I felt like I didn't have any other options and I just had to keep going. 2, are you in that season currently? Or 3, you've never felt like that before. I see a lot of 1s. Yeah. A lot of 1s and 2s. You're in that season right now. I don't know if I saw any 3s coming in. I don't know if I saw any 3s. That's probably typical though. Yeah. A lot of us are in that season right now. Or you know what it feels like, right? I want you to see what God is actually revealing about himself through the structure of this law, okay? I will ask it one more time. Actually, I feel like my mic is kind of far away. All right. So, I want you to drop a 1 if you've been in a season where it felt like you had no options and you had to just keep going. Is it 2, I'm in that season right now? Or 3, I have never felt that way? Okay, that was a question. So I'm inviting you guys to look into what God is revealing about himself through the structure of this law. Okay? It is not just a humane policy. This is a God showing you something about how he thinks. So he actually gave the servant a time limit, which means that he looked at somebody in an impossible situation who had no options, no leverage, no way out, and he built the exit into the law before they even needed it. He thought about the end before they knew that they were even in the middle. He provisioned that freedom before the freedom even arrived. I want you to think about what that means for you in this season. So many of you put a 1 and a 2, like you're in that season right now. Or you have been in one and you know exactly how it feels to feel like you have no other options, right? The thing that you've been showing up for day in and day out, your family, your work, your business, your friends, your marriage, whatever that looks like for you guys. That thing that you've been showing up for and you feel like you haven't seen any return, whether that's the content that's going out without having the numbers moving, maybe it's a business that you're building without having the income to match how much effort you're putting in towards it, or the calling that you have been faithful to without having the confirmation that you've been waiting for. God already thought about what you're going to need when this season ends. He already built the provision into it. The limit of how long you're going to be in this season, God wrote it. It was already written before you even stepped into it. He already accounted for an exit. He doesn't just free people. He gives them resources after the freedom. That tells me that whatever you all are going through, that whatever we are going through, God has already created a time limit for it. So you're not going to struggle indefinitely. You're not going to be going through something hard indefinitely. You're not going to have a lack of options indefinitely. He's already created resources so that when you come out of this really hard season, the season where you feel like, what is going on? Or how long am I going to be in here? Is this even worth it? He's going to show you that it's worth that and more. And those of you that are sitting in what feels like an impossible middle right now, that is the exact person that he was thinking about when he wrote this. He used a servant as the definition. Like he gave the servant a time limit and he made sure that they left with something in their hands. Okay? Agree or disagree? God always makes sure that you leave a hard season with something. How many of you agree or disagree with that? God always makes sure that you leave a hard season with something. A new mindset, a new support system, financial provision, an environment that is beneficial for you, a new job, new resources. I don't care what it is, even if you don't recognize it, I know for a fact he does. I know he does. Because he is always thinking of every and anything when it pertains to us. So here's where this chapter I feel like gets really beautiful. Okay? There is a passage right after this that I want to slow down because it's one of the most tender pictures in the entire book of the covenant. When I say the book of the covenant, for those of you that just joined, it's the chapter 21, 22, and 23, and that's what we're reading fully today. Okay? So in this, I'll read verse 7 of chapter 21. It says, "And if a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does, do not please her master who has betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt deceitfully with her. And if she has betrothed her to his son, he shall deal with her according to the custom of daughters. If he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her marriage rights. And if he does not do this, 3 for her, then she shall go out free without pay." Another provision, okay? Another person in mind. Then he looks to the law concerning violence. Okay? That's going to be in verse 12. But I want you to picture this. So a servant has been in a household for about 6 years, and he came into this family probably under difficult circumstances. Like maybe he was in debt, maybe he had no other options, or maybe life backed him into a corner, okay? But 6 years later, everything is different. In this part, in verses 1 through 6, he built everything is going to be different later. 6 years, God placed a timeline. This man in this part, he actually built a life. He has a wife that he loves. He has children who are his, and he knows this family that he is serving. He knows them deeply, and he trusts the person that he works for. And his 6 years are actually up, so legally he's free, and he can walk out that door right now, and nobody can stop him. The law actually gives him that right. And then what he does is he goes on to look at everything. He goes on to look at everything in this household, and he thinks, I don't want to go. This is my family. I love my master. I love my wife. I love my children. I'm staying. Okay, it says that in verse 5, it says, "But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go free." Right? I will not go free. So I want you to think about this. When you first said yes to what God called you to to what you're building or what you're doing in your life right now? Was it because you genuinely loved it from the start? Or did you say yes? Did you say yes first and then the love came later? Or are you still waiting for the love to show up? Did you love it initially? Like from at the moment that you started doing whatever it is that you're doing in your life, your homeschooling, your business, your 9 to 5, did you love that right away from the start? Or did you say yes first and then the love came later? Or maybe you don't love any of those things at all. Which one of those is it for you? I loved it immediately, I'm still waiting, or it came later. Okay, so I'm going to read through all the way through to 21 here in just a second. Okay, but when we look at verse 9, it says, "And if he has betrothed her to his son, he shall deal with her according to the customs of his daughters. And if he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, her marriage rights. And if he does not do these 3 things for her, then she shall go out free without paying money." Okay. So there's a formal ceremony. They bring him before the community of the judges of the community. They do it publicly with witnesses, and they bring him to the front door of the house. Give me just a second. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not going ahead because I didn't number my notes today. So I'm like, hopefully I'm not reading too far ahead. But in this part of it, publicly with witnesses, they bring him to the front door of the house. Okay? There is a doorpost, and it says that, where does it say this in? With the all. I can't remember where I read that in. Let me just read all of this, okay? Because I feel like for some reason I'm reading ahead and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. All right, I'm going to read all of 21. I wish I would have numbered my notes today. So I'm going to read the law concerning violence and then the animal control laws, okay? I do think I'm reading ahead. That's why I'm like, that doesn't make sense because I feel like we haven't covered that yet. Yeah. All right, so he who strikes a man so that he passes away will surely be put to death. However, if he did not lie in wait, but God delivered him in the hand, then I will appoint you a place where you may flee. But if a man acts in premeditation against his neighbor to unalive him by treachery, you shall take him from my altar, that he may pass away. And he who strikes his father or his mother surely shall be put to death. He who kidnaps a man sells him, or if he is found in his hand shall surely be put to death. Okay? And he who curses his father or his mother shall be gone too, right? If the men contend with each other, and one strikes the other with a stone or his fist, and he does not pass away but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks outside with his staff, then he who strikes him shall be acquitted, and he shall pay for the loss of this time, and shall provide for him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man beats his male or female servants with a rod, so that he passes away under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or 2, he shall not be punished, for he is his property. If men fight and hurt a woman with a child, so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no harm follows, he shall surely be punished accordingly, as the woman's husband imposes on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, and an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe. If a man strikes the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he shall let him go free for the sake of his eye. And if he knocks out a tooth of his male or female servant, he shall let him go free for the sake of his tooth. Okay? I don't think I'm reading ahead. actually, because I haven't gotten to the part about the eye for an eye, okay? So I'm just going to keep telling you, all right? So they bring this person before a community of judges, and then they bring him to the front door to a doorpost. And there is a piece in there that talks about the all. And I know that's in there. I just can't remember where I wrote that down or where that's in scripture. Okay? So if I do so happen to read this part, I want you to understand what an awl is. Okay? An awl is a small metal, it's a sharp metal spike. Okay? I downloaded a picture of it and I forgot to put it on here. But essentially what it is like, imagine you have the wooden piece right here, like that your hand can grasp like this. And then it's like a very thin metal part with a very sharp point at the end. If you guys Google it, you'll know what it, like, I'm sure so many of you have seen it. So what they do is they take this sharp metal spike and they press it through the earlobe, through the wood of a doorpost. I want to explain what this means because this detail is actually really important. So this small pointed metal tool was sharp enough to pierce solid material with just one push. It's in verse 6. Yes, see, I knew I had already read it. Thank you, Pink Lady. Okay, it leaves a permanent mark. And so every witness that's standing there, they see it happening. So I want to talk about why the ear very specifically. So in the culture of the time, the ear, it represented hearing and responding. So when somebody said that you have to have a good ear, it actually meant that you have to listen and follow through. So the ear is a symbol of the relationship between the person who speaks and the person who is turned into them. So it's kind of like you guys having a good ear, right? Like I'm speaking to you right now. You're somebody who's listening to what I'm saying, and then you're going to follow through. So by marking the ear, they're saying this person hears this household. This person turned into his family, and they belong here in the deepest way. So some of us might be like, well, why a doorpost though? The doorpost is actually the frame of the front door. So in the world at this time that this was written, it represented the household itself. That was the family and the life inside of it. So when you pressed yourself against it and you let yourself be marked there, you were saying, I belong to what's inside this door. This is my household. This is where I'm from. Okay, so if we put all of this together, this is a man who is completely free and he had every legal right to walk away. And he's choosing, instead of doing that, he's choosing to stand at the front door of the household that he loves in front of his entire community and let himself be permanently marked. He's putting his ear against the doorpost, and it is a public, painful, permanent declaration that says, I hear this family and I choose this house and I'm not leaving. It's not because I have to, like I don't have to do any of those things, but because I love them. Before I tell you guys what this doorpost actually connects to in this chapter, it's part of one of the most famous nights in the entire Bible. I'm going to ask you guys to take a guess, and I'll help you out a little by giving you some options, okay? Was this scene, I wanted to make this kind of trivia. Like, I was like, how do I do this to keep you guys engaged without quizzing you in a way that, like, a lot of us don't know what these are, so I don't want to set you up to fail if you don't know. So I'm like, let's make this a trivia, okay? Was this scene, was it connected to A, the night of the Passover? Was it B, the building of the temple? Or was it C, the crossing of the Red Sea? A, the night of Passover, B, the building of the temple, or C, the crossing of the Red Sea? You said A. Look at you guys. Smarties. Okay, the answer is A. It is the night of Passover. Some creators will play music. That's my music for you guys. Yay! You guys are right. So the word for doorpost in Hebrew is the exact same. It's the exact same word that is used in Exodus 12. So that was the night that God told Israel to put blood on the lamb of the doorpost of their house. So when he saw that blood on the doorpost, he passed over the household. So everybody inside of that house, they were covered. That doorpost, it marked the night that God rescued them. That same word is being used here in the same location on a house. It's two completely different moments connected by the same piece of wood. One doorpost had blood on it and it said, God rescued this family. The other doorpost, it has a person pressed against it and it says this person chose this family. God built that connection on purpose. So the place where the rescue happened is the same place where chosen love was declared. Both were at that doorpost. When we look into Psalm 40 actually picks up on it. David actually writes, he says, "You have opened my ears." So in Hebrew, it literally reads, "Ears have dug out." So it's the same image. It's a person whose ear has been marked. It means a person who belongs, a person who belongs because they chose to. So what David is describing in Psalm 40 is his relationship with God. And he's using the language of this ceremony. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Billy. He's saying, you marked me and I belong to your household and I hear you and I'm not going anywhere. So then when we get into Philippians 2, it takes it all the way and it describes Jesus. It's equal with God in every single way. So it says every right and every reason to stay exactly where he was at. And he chose to come down anyway. And he made himself nothing. He took form of a servant and he was completely free. Jesus was, and he chose to stay and he did it out of love. So here's a part that I want you guys to sit with very personally for just a second. A lot of us have said yes to something and we stepped into the calling that God has placed on our life. Whether it's a business, a 9-to-5, or marriage, or whatever you equate it to, right? This assignment that you're walking in. And some days, it probably costs more than what you expected. I feel like my mic slowly fell down and I didn't recognize it. Okay? Some days, you're probably tired in a way that is so hard to explain. Some days you look at what the day is requiring of you and you think, I don't think that I knew that it was going to be like this. But you show up and you keep going anyway, right? That is not an obligation that's holding you there, though. That's love. That to me is very similar to the doorpost ceremony playing out in your actual day-to-day life. You are in a lot of ways similar to that voluntary servant, right? Because you had options after he did in the end, and you continue to choose this because you show up every day when it's hard. Every day you produce something when you don't feel like it. Every day you stay when leaving would be so much easier. That is your ear at the doorpost. That is a daily declaration that you have turned into this household, that you belong here in this assignment and that you're staying. And I know that God sees that, not just as faithfulness, but as love, the same love that marked the doorpost and that same love that held Jesus at the cross. So your faithfulness in this season, I know that it is not going unwitnessed. He is the judge in the ceremony. He is the witness, right? And he knows the difference between somebody who is staying out of obligation and who's staying because they love what they're building and who they're building it for. And listen, there are some situations that you guys all find yourself that maybe you are staying out of obligation, but there are others that you're showing up for. And you continue to show up for them day in and day out because you love them. God sees that. Okay, I'm going to read the remainder of verse 21 or chapter 21, and then we're going to go into chapter 22. But before we move on to that, I want to make sure that we're really clear on something, because most people have heard a phrase from later in this chapter, and their entire lives have been misunderstanding all of it this entire time. We're going to go on to talk in chapter 22 about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Well, we read the eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, right? So we read that in Exodus 21, verse 23. Okay? It says, "But if any harm follows, then you shall give a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, and a foot for a foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe." Okay? I'm going to ask you really quick. When you have heard an eye for an eye, it's a very common saying, right? How many of you guys are not familiar with it, I should say? There probably would be less of you. We have all heard the eye for an eye, at least I think. But be honest with me. Did you guys think that it meant revenge, or did you have no idea what it even meant? You could say revenge or no idea. I'm curious what you guys have always thought of it as. I've always thought of it as revenge. Yeah, like an eye for an eye. That's what honestly, that's what I've always thought. So most of us, we read it as revenge, right? Punishment. Justice. Yeah, that's a good one. That makes complete sense. That's how it sounds in English, but here's what it actually means. The word translated as for in that phrase, in Hebrew, it means in place of. So an eye in place of an eye. It means something of equal value must be given back. I want you to think of a car accident. So if somebody totals your car, they owe you the value of your car, the fair equivalent of what you lost, equal compensation for actual harm done, right? The rabbis that studied this text for centuries, they studied it and they asked the practical question out loud. Okay, well, what if a blind person blinds somebody else? There is no eye to take, right? This is not about a literal this isn't literal. It's not literal retaliation. It's always about a proportional compensation. So there's 5 categories. He talks about the physical injury, right? He says, if any harm follows, then you shall give a life for a life. Then he talks about the pain caused, right? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot, burn for a burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe, right? The medical cost, the lost work time, and the humiliation. There are 5 that are accounted for, and they are all paid. Here's the thing that makes this unlike anything that existed in the world at that time, okay? So every single nation that surrounded Israel, what your injury was worth in court, it depended entirely on your social class. How crazy is that, first of all? I mean, it probably isn't all that crazy even now today, but that's insane. That's insane to me. Okay, so a person with a high standing, they got, yes, how rude, I agree. They got full compensation. If you were a servant, though, you got a fraction. Which is, like, that entire state of mind is so backwards, because if you really think about it, if you are serving somebody, you want somebody, if they're going to serve you, you want them to be fully capable, right? You don't want somebody who can do it just halfway and struggle through it. I know that they didn't care, but think about that. If I'm going to make somebody work for me, they better be able to do the job. So why would their body be literally like, it's worth less? And to them, obviously, it's worthless. But somebody who is of stature, right? They don't really have to do much. How backwards is that, right? A servant got a fraction, and the person who had a higher standing, they got full compensation. So your body literally had a different price depending on who you were born to. God said, I want the same calculation for everybody. I want you to hear this personally for a second. In the kingdom of God, what you're building, it doesn't have less value because it's small right now, right? A lot of us look at what we're doing in our days and it feels very small. It feels unrecognized by others. It feels like we lack visibility. And I don't just mean that in the business sense, okay? But I'll equate it to that, right? Our audience of 50, it doesn't have the same weight. It doesn't have less weight than the audience of 50,000. The number one thing I have always prayed, and I have I always try to remind myself of, I will always talk to you and give you my best, whether there's one of you on here or thousands. I'll love you the same as if day 1 to day 500, right? You give your best no matter what, because the numbers are numbers, right? You all mean something to me, and I know that we tend to look at our world as a number driven, right? That's sometimes where we think our worth lies. That's what the social media world tries to tell us, right? The more you have, the more you're worth, the more opportunities open up to you. That does not at all equate your worth. In fact, sometimes I think the more that we have, the less we give, right? Like the less we give in the sense of there's not heart behind it. It's driven by the number. Yes, exactly, Billy. I'll read that too. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Whatever you do it heartily as for the Lord, not for man, right? So I don't want you to see anything that is in the phase that you're in right now as less than, because it's small right now. Whether that's the audience, that's the amount of years that you're in business, that's your revenue, whatever that looks like, right? The business in year 1 doesn't have less worth than the business in year 10. Billy posted it. I'm gonna pin it really quick. It's Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Okay. All right. God's economy, it doesn't calculate your value based on where you're currently sitting in the social hierarchy of your industry. It is the same calculation for every single person. That is why when I coach women, I have to pull that mindset out of you guys. Your worth is determined by something else entirely. There is no worldly metric that can ever come close to the worth that you have in the Lord. How God sees you. There is nothing in this world that can touch that. So what any other person tells you determines success, that is not at all how God determines it. That's why when I coach women, why does this keep falling down? When I coach women, I say, I'm not going to give you a guarantee of how much money you're going to make, because that's not where it is. Revenue is a metric that is important in business, but that doesn't determine your success. It doesn't at all. God has the same calculation for everyone. Your worth is not in your business. Your worth is not in your achievements. Your worth is not in your followers. Okay. Oh my goodness. Give me 1 second. All right. Sorry. This person, I had to fully block them because they keep coming on to the live. All right. I don't normally do that, but anyway. He gives that same calculation for everybody. Our work, our calling, our obedience, they all have that same weight. So if you're somebody who has 100 followers and you show up faithfully every single morning, you're going to stand in the same court as a woman who has 1 million. God sees you both the same way. The same way. That is not just legally revolutionary. That is personally freeing. Your faithfulness right now, it counts at full value. Every single day that you show up without your numbers moving, and every piece of content that you put out there, and you don't have the reach that you expected, every single morning that you open up your Bible and you go on on this live, or you do your own, that is full weight. God doesn't discount it because the world hasn't noticed it yet. I'm going to share something with you guys. I know that so many of you have had success in your lives. And maybe you've pivoted to something else. And it feels like, why is this not moving as quickly as I imagined it would be? We play that comparison game, right? You see other people. You could see 300 people on my live right now and think, I don't know how to... It didn't start that way, you guys. It didn't start that way. I was like, I'm going to show it for the 6 of you The 6 of you that show up, and it was 6 for months. 6 and 9 and 15 and 5 and 2 and 1. And it was very inconsistent, and it always is, right? Sometimes I'll have 100 on here, sometimes I'll have 600. When I started we all start from 0, right? Your assignment is not to focus on the numbers. Your assignment is to show up and to do. Your assignment is not to focus on how people view you. It's to show up. It's to walk in that assignment. And we get so sidetracked by the numbers, right? Yep. You do it for the one. If Jesus can leave the 99 for the one, that shows us that there is value in the intimacy, that he values each person. That one that you're speaking to could go on to help you gain millions. You have impact. It's not about the numbers, okay? God doesn't discount it because the world hasn't seen it yet or noticed it yet. If you guys are just joining us, we are in the Book of the Covenant this morning. Okay. The Book of the Covenant actually is Exodus 21 through 23. I don't know if many of you knew that. It is one connected document. We're going to move into chapter 22. I keep saying I'm going to finish reading 21 and I get sidetracked. Okay. I'm in Nebraska, for those of you that don't know. Shout out to Nebraska. If anybody, I don't know, I've only seen like one of you guys. Unless you're like family watching this, then obviously you're in Nebraska, some of you. But if you find yourself on this live and you're in Nebraska, shout out to Omaha. Okay. All right. So we are in we're going to be in verse 28. Okay. The animal control laws. Yeah. You guys give a shout out to where you guys are from while I read this. So if an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten. But the owner of the ox shall be acquitted. But if the ox tends to thrust with its horn in past times, and it has been made known to its owner, and he has not kept it confined, so that it has unalived a man or woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner shall also be put to death. So if there is imposed on him a sum of money, then he shall pay to redeem his life, whatever is imposed on him. Whether it has gored a son or gored a daughter, according to this judgment, it shall be done to him. If the ox gores a man or female servant, then he shall give to their masters 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if the man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or donkey, I'm sorry, sometimes when I read scripture, I'm like, what? Okay, so if a man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and doesn't cover it, and an ox or donkey falls into it, I don't mean to laugh because I know there's significance in it, but sometimes I read scripture and I'm like, what? Okay, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and he shall give money to their owner, but the animal that passed away shall be his, right? It's being so detailed. It's just telling you, kind of like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Okay, if one man's ox hurts another so that it passes away, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money from it. And the ox that passed away, they shall also divide. Or if it was known that the ox tended to thrust in time past, and its owner has not kept it confined, he shall surely pay ox for the ox, and an unalived animal shall be his own. Right? It's giving you, yes, details. Yes, I am detailed too. It's giving you detailed because it's trying to give you examples that they would know at that time. Right? It is all about fairness and accountability. That is where it is going in this. So that is what that is a summary of it. The heart of where we're going to in this Bible study is not in 2021, but I can't skip over that and just go straight to 23. That's doing scripture a disservice, right? So I have to read that to you. That is why some of you have been on these Bible studies for long enough to know that there are times where I will skim through scripture to get to the heart of what I'm trying to tell you. This is today. But this is meant to be read in all three. Okay? So in chapter 22, It says, if a man steals an ox for sheep and slaughters it or sells it, or he shall restore the 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. And if the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he passes away, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. That I find that very interesting. I want to pause on that piece of it. Because in the 10 commandments, right, one of the commandments is thou shalt not unalive somebody else, right? But here it's saying if somebody breaks in and he passes away, there shall be no, and he's struck, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. That's interesting. How do you guys read that? Like self-defense is okay? Or do you read that as like something entirely different? I kind of read that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I read that as kind of like a clause. Yeah, justice. Exactly. Self-defense. Yeah. If the sun has risen on him, there shall be guilt for his bloodshed. He shall make a full restitution, meaning like if he lives, he shall make a full restitution. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his thief. Right? Like if he's to pay restitution and he doesn't have anything, then he's going to be sold for his theft. And if the theft is certainly found alive in his hand, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall restore double. If a man causes a field or a vineyard to be grazed and lets loose his animal and it feeds another man's field, he shall make restitution from the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard. And if a fire breaks out and it catches in thorns, so that stacked grain, standing grain, or the field is consumed, he who kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. And if a man delivers to his neighbor money or articles to keep, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, he shall pay double. Do we do that today in our justice system? If somebody breaks into our home, usually I feel like what happens is that thief just serves time. Thank you for that. That thief just serves time, right? I don't think there's usually restitution to be paid. I don't know of many cases where, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think more often than not, they serve time versus paying that individual back. I know that some places like stores, if you steal in like a store, you pay a fine. But us as individuals, do you guys know of any? Maybe I'm like just spacing on that. And it says, for if any kind trespasses, whether it concerns an ox and a donkey and a sheep or clothing or any kind of lost thing which another claims to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whomever the judges condemn shall pay double to his neighbor. And if a man delivers to his neighbor a donkey, an ox, a sheep, or any animal to keep, and it passes away, or is hurt, or is driven away, no one seeing it, then an oath of the Lord shall be between them both, that he has not put his hand into his neighbor's goods. And the owner of it shall accept that he shall not make it good. But if in fact it is stolen from him, he shall make restitution to the owner of it. For if it is torn into pieces by a beast, then he shall bring it as evidence, and he shall make good what was torn. And if a man borrows anything from his neighbor, and it becomes injured or it passes away, the owner of it not being with it, he shall surely make it good. And if his owner was with it, then he shall not make it good. If it was hired, it came for its hire. So this is Exodus 22 that I'm reading, okay? I'm going to read through the moral and ceremonial practices, okay? So if a man entices a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall surely pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money according to the bride price of the virgins. You shall not permit a sorceress to live. So in verse 22 and 16, what I just read, it says if a man entices, so the man was being held accountable for premarital knowing, like the act, okay? And the victim was seen as having been exploited by him, for which he paid a price. Okay, so if he has his way with her and he lies with her, he's going to repay her the bride price for her to be his wife. Then it says, you shall not permit a sorceress to live. So a sorceress is a woman who practiced occultism. Okay, I think we have an idea of what that is, but I just wanted to read that in case you guys were like, what is that? Whoever lies with an animal shall surely be unalived. Okay, he who sacrificed to any god except to the Lord, only he shall be utterly destroyed. In verse 21, it says, you shall neither mistreat a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. In 22, it says, you shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you afflict them in any way, and they cry out at me, I will surely hear their cry. In verse 24, it says, and my wrath will become hot, and I will unalive you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people who are poor among you, you shall not be like a money lender to them. You shall not charge him interest. If you ever take your neighbor's garment as a pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is his only covering, it is his garment for his skin. What will he sleep in, and what will be that he cries to me? I will hear him, for I am gracious. You shall not revile God, nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe produce and your juices. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. Likewise you shall do with your oxen and your sheep. It shall be with its mother 7 days, and on the 8th day you shall give it to me. And you shall be holy men to me. You shall not eat meat torn by beasts in the field, and you shall throw it to the dogs. Okay? So, can he still leave her after marrying her? That's a good question. I'm not sure. If any of you guys know the answer, I would love that. I would think no, but. So what shall you do with your oxen? God is very detailed in that section. He tells you exactly what to do with your oxen, okay? He gives almost any and every scenario. I love how detailed he is. I want you guys to remember that as we read that, that is a continuation of the commandments. Now, I think a lot of times we read that and we're like, I don't know how this applies to me in my day-to-day. Maybe I'll go deeper in that. Maybe I'll go deeper in that in a separate study sometime. But I want to get to the heart of where we're going. So chapter 22, this is still that same legal section. So God is still giving Moses the playbook, and the laws keep coming. It's theft and restitution, and what happens when somebody steals an ox versus sheep, right? What happens when a fire spreads through someone's field and destroys their neighbor's crops? What happens when somebody is borrowing something and it gets damaged while it's in their care? Each one of these laws is doing the same thing that chapter 21 was doing. It's taking a real situation that people actually faced or would face, and it's saying, this is what justice looks like in this very specific moment. So I want to move through the first part of this chapter, right? Like we moved through all of it, but I want to slow down on verses 21 through 27. Okay? This is where the chapter actually shifts. So if the first hard thing that I went through, it made me more compassionate towards others, like I want you to think of that, okay, as we're reading this. What is a hard thing that you guys have gone through and it made you more compassionate towards others? Because that's what this is detailing. You guys can put that in. Like, what's something that you guys have done? Maybe you've lost a job. Maybe you've had a painful friendship. Maybe you have faced a difficult marriage. You've had financial pressure. You've been raising kids without support, building a business for the first time, and it didn't work out. Whatever yours is, can you put that in? Where I'm going to connect it directly to what what we just typed, okay? So verse 21, it says, "You shall neither mistreat a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." Okay? "You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child." Right? It continues to go on, right? But in verse 21, it says, "You shall not oppress a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." I want you to look at how God explains the reason for this law. He doesn't say, like, he's not saying treat the stranger well because it's the right thing to do, even though it is. He's saying, you know what it felt like to be a stranger. He's telling the Israelites more specifically, you spent 400 years as an outsider. And you had no rights and no one to advocate for you. That experience, it's not just history, it's the reason why this law even exists. So I want you to look now like deeper into this, because God is actually revealing something about himself through this. He takes the hardest thing that you went through and he turns it into the very thing that qualifies you to protect somebody else. He doesn't waste those hard seasons, and he doesn't just let this pain sit unused. He looks at everything that you carried and he says, now this is the foundation of your compassion. What you just survived, it makes it safe for someone else who is still in it. So go on to think about your day-to-day, right? Your business specifically. I actually want you to think about how most people, they go through an incredibly difficult season. Why is my mic not staying up? They go through an incredibly difficult season and they turn that pain into part of their purpose, right? So if you think about your business more specifically, that failed launch that you learned from, or the season where your income wasn't where you thought that it needed to be, so you had to get creative. Or maybe you felt like you had an entire year or years where you were invisible online, but you kept going anyway. Or you had a relationship with a client that cost you more than what it should have. You went through all of those things. That version of you now that comes out, the one that was in a year with no audience and no traction, you are sitting from someone who knows exactly what that costs. Right? That was me. That's the life the experience that he gave me to take other women through that, to go before them. Essentially, I want you to look at that this pain and this struggle, these hard seasons, it's giving you an experience that allows you to come to it in a depth that maybe that other person walking through it that's right in front of you, they can't see yet. I don't believe that God gave you that experience so that you could forget it when you got further along. He gave it to you so that you could stay close to that person when they were in it too. Your history, it's not just a wound to manage. It's the thing that I believe that God is building your ministry around. I want you to think about that, because I know that these seasons, they can be very hard and confusing and lonely and isolating and so much more. God does not waste a single thing. So in verse 22, it goes on to say, "You shall not afflict any widow or her fatherless child." Okay? I need you to understand what a widow and an orphan meant in the world at that time, because I don't think it's the same as what we picture today. So in that culture, there was no social safety net for them. They had no government assistance. There was no system that was designed to catch people who fell through the cracks. Your protection came entirely from your family network. So if you were a woman and your husband passed away, you lost your legal representation. Whether it was in court, in business, in land disputes, you had no one to speak for you. You were legally invisible. So an orphan, that was the same. If they didn't have a father, that means that they had no inheritance, no household, no standing. So a child without a father in that world had nothing, and they had no one. These were two of the most exposed people in the entire society. The people that were most likely to be taken advantage of, because there was no consequences for doing that. There was nobody to push back on it and nobody to notice. And in this, God says, He says, if they cry out to me, I will hear. So if you do something wrong to them and they cry out to me, I'm going to hear it. Not if they pray correctly or they use the right words or they have enough faith. If they cry, that was the only condition, and the cry was enough. He said, if they cry, I'm going to hear it. Which one is you right now? Do you feel like your cry reaches God very easily, or does it feel like you have to get it right before He hears? Which one is you? Do you feel like your cry goes straight to Him and He hears it right away? Or do you feel like you have to have a certain level of posture before you get to Him and He hears it? Which one is that? I believe that He hears it. He may not answer in the way that I am thinking, but I know He hears it and He answers. Yes, He does have our six. He has our backs, right? So here's what this means for you very personally. A lot of us have been showing up in this season. Maybe you're going live just like I do every morning. Maybe you're producing content, you're answering messages, you're serving your community. Somewhere in the middle of the conversation between you and God, it's gotten more functional than a personal one. You have more of a task list than actually talking to Him. You check in with Him, but your check-ins, they started to sound like a status update rather than a conversation. Hey God, here's what I'm doing today. Can you bless this? God, be with me today. God, help me with this this content land. God, please provide. Right? Check, check, check. I feel like if you get to the heart of it, there's something more specific, something that you've probably been sitting with. There's a part of it that's doing something to you, whether it's fear that you haven't said to anybody else, a question that you've been carrying around without vocalizing it. Because if you say it loudly, you voice it loudly, it feels like it might make it more real. Maybe you've been protecting yourself from your own interior thoughts and feelings. So you're moving fast enough that you don't have to sit with this thought. You don't have to sit with the weight of it. God wrote this law specifically for you. He's the one who hears the cry before it is even fully formed, before you can even locate the right words to say, before you can even make it into an audible sound, before you get it right. The widow, that widow didn't have an articulate prayer to reach Him, right? She just had a cry. And He's saying, I heard it before it was even finished. He heard it before it even came out of her mouth. So this thing that we're going through, the weight that you're carrying on your shoulders, the one truly underneath the functional prayers that you give to God, He already heard it long before you even found the words for it. So when we look into verse 25, it says, if you lend money to any of my people who are poor among you, you shall not be like a money lender to him. You shall not charge him interest. That's interesting, right? I want to explain why this law is so unusual. So in every single culture surrounding Israel, lending money was a business. You lent money to make money. The interest, like the extra amount that the borrower paid back on top of what was originally borrowed, that was how the lender was compensated for the risk, right? That happens all the time, right? There are money lending businesses, there are banks. That's fine, right? That's normal. It's rational. Everyone did that. So don't you think that what I'm saying right now, it is not okay for banks or any of you who have businesses that are in similar industries. That's not what I'm saying here, okay? God said for somebody who's poor, you lend without charging what you are owed. The reason that He gives this is a poor person that's coming to you for a loan, they already have no leverage. They need what you have, and you know that. The power in the transaction, it sits entirely on your side. God is saying, don't use that position to extract money from them. Don't make money off of someone else's desperation. Lend because they need it. That's a full stop. I want you to think about what this means in terms of your business. Okay, there's a version of building a business or building an audience that is a generous and a version that is extravagant, right? The generous version says, I have something that I will genuinely help you with and I want to get it to you. The extra active, extra active version says this: I know that you're struggling and I'm going to position the offer that I have right at the edge of that struggle so you feel like you cannot even afford to say no. There is a massive difference between the two. One is helping somebody genuinely in need, and the other is taking advantage of them. God is drawing a line between those two things right here with that lending law. So the person with less leverage, they deserve a lender who's not going to be extracting from them. That means the person in your audience who is at the bottom of what you went through 3 years ago, they deserve content that actually serves them, not content that is engineered to make her feel just desperate enough to buy. Do you guys see the difference between the two? You want to actually serve them. You don't want them to come to you with no other options but to have you because they are desperate and they feel like there is no other way around it. So there's a part of this that I do want to call out. I want to offer it gently because it matters. You have to check the posture here, okay? Are you creating from the overflow that God gave you? Are you creating from the overflow of what you have to give, or from the calculation of what you can get? Are you giving as a cheerful giver? You genuinely want to help people? Or are you doing it are you calculating what can I get out of this? Because both of those, they produce content. Only one produces the thing that God wants you to actually build your ministry around. Those are two very different things. And I can guarantee you, every single one of you that is a follower, not a TikTok follower, a follower of Jesus, I can guarantee you that when you are serving people, I know that you are serving them from the right heart posture. I genuinely do believe that. I don't believe any of you start a business with what can I get out of this and truly mean that. You're not doing it to deceive people. You're not trying to take advantage of them. You are doing it because you genuinely want to help. So when we look at verses 26 and 27, it says, if you ever take your neighbor's garment as a pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is his only covering. It is his garment for his skin. What will he sleep in? And it will be that when he cries out to me, I will hear him, for I am gracious. Okay, this is where everything kind of turns. So I want to explain what's happening here because it kind of requires context. In that world, when somebody borrowed money from a neighbor, they would often leave something valuable behind as a pledge. So we think of it as like collateral, right? The borrower is saying, I am leaving this with you as proof that I will pay you back. And if I don't pay you back, you can keep it. So a cloak, it was one of the things that a poor person might use as collateral. In the world at that time, a cloak wasn't just an outer garment, it was also a blanket. So at night in the desert, in the climate of that time, it reached temperatures that dropped significantly. We talked about this in earlier places of Exodus, where God brought fire to them at night because the temperatures got so cold. And so for a person who had very little, a cloak might be the only thing standing between them and sleeping in the cold. So here's what God is imagining. So a poor person has borrowed something from their neighbor and they left their cloak as collateral. So the lender has the cloak and now the sun is going down and the temperature is dropping and that person has nothing to cover them through the night. God says, give back before dark. Look at how specific that is. It's not a general principle about generosity. This is God who is writing a law about one item on one night for one person who might be cold. He is specific enough to think about the temperature dropping. He thought about the moment that that person lies down with nothing, and he cared. He cared enough about that unglamorous, ordinary moment to build a law around it. If that doesn't show you how much God sees our day to day and knows the need before we're even going to have it, I don't. What I see in 22 is a God who is so specific and takes care of every single need. He thinks of any and everything. Which one's you right now? Do you need God to show up for you in a big dramatic way? Or do you just need to know that He sees the ordinary weight of what you're carrying? Do you need Him to do it in a big moment? Because if that's you, put big moment. Or if you just need to know that He sees the ordinary, everyday pieces, you could just put every day. I know sometimes I ask God, please show up for me in boldness so that I know it's you and I don't miss it. But I want a God that sees me in all of my moments, my day to day, not just the big moments. I want Him in here in every element of everything. Good morning to some of you that just joined. We're in Exodus 22. Okay, here's what God is showing you about Himself through the law. He's showing us that He is specific about our ordinary. He is not waiting for the big moment to care about what you're carrying. He's thinking about the cold night right now. He's thinking about the Tuesday morning when you sat down to create content and nothing came. He's thinking about the conversation that you had with your husband that didn't go the way that you needed it to go. He's thinking about the kid who needed something from you when you had nothing left. He is specific enough about the small things in the same way He is specific about this one person and their cloak on one cold night thousands of years ago. That ordinary weight is exactly where He shows up most specifically. Okay. Then verse 27, it says, "For that is the only covering, and it is his garment for his skin. What will he sleep in?" Right? He sees that. Verse 27, it's where everything in this chapter turns. There have been 2 chapters of law and case after case. There has been unaliveness. There has been assault, theft, fire, borrowed items, lending, collateral. God writes law after law, and then He lets the laws do the talking. And then He gets to a borrowed cloak and a person who might sleep cold on one specific night, and He stops. He actually describes Himself. He says, "If he cries out to me, I will hear him, for I am compassionate." That is the only time in the book of the covenant. So verses 21 through 23, that's the book of the covenant. For those of you that joined that didn't hear that part. This is the only place in the book of the covenant where God pauses to say who He is. There are 2.5 chapters of law, and the moment He stops to describe Himself is right here, next to the most ordinary, most specific and unglamorous situation in the entire document. A cold night, a borrowed coat, and one person. As if He could not write that law specific enough without putting His name on it. As if the law about the cold night mattered so personally to Him that He had to say it out loud. This is my character, that when a person cries, I hear. Now I want to give that word compassionate, like the compassion that it actually means in Hebrew, because I think that when we go deeper into it, it might change it. It might change everything that follows. So the word that your Bible translates compassion as, that word in Hebrew, it means grace. The disposition to give something to someone who hasn't earned it and doesn't deserve it. Not because they qualify for it, just because you're inclined to give. Underneath that, there's another root word. Okay? The deeper root word in Hebrew, it means to have mercy, to move towards someone with tender love, to feel something on their behalf and act on it. The Hebrew word for womb, like a place where a baby grows, it actually comes from that same root word. They are the same letters and the same word family. So the word for compassion and the word for womb in Hebrew, they come from the same place. We know that is not accidental or a coincidence. In Hebrew, the connection between those two words was completely intentional. So I want you to think about a mother and her newborn baby, right? The baby starts crying in the middle of the night. What do we as moms do? Right? We move towards them. Even before we're fully awake, right? Before we've consciously processed that we probably even are like, "Oh, we have a baby." Right? Our body, it responds to the cry. We move towards it. We can't help it, right? That's innately in us. It's not like a rational choice that we make. It's an immediate, involuntary act, right? Physical. Us as mothers, we don't lie there equating the quality of, well, sometimes we do. Sometimes we're like, is that a cry? Like, are they gonna go back to sleep? Are they hungry? Like, we try to figure it out, but we're not saying, is this cry a good enough cry, or did the baby cry in the right format? Should I wait and see if the baby is crying specifically enough before I respond? We've already responded just by waking up, okay? So that it just happens involuntarily. We just move to the sound of our baby crying, because that cry in and of itself is enough. That is the word that God is using to describe himself right here. That is the kind of love that moves before it even thinks. The kind of compassion that doesn't equate the quality of the cry before responding to it. His move towards you when you cry out, it's the same move a mother makes towards her baby. He wrote that in scripture. It's the same word as womb. Before he assesses it and before he decides if it was articulated enough, he doesn't do that. The cry in and of itself is what moves God. So I'm going to invite you guys to do this with me, okay? To finish this sentence in the comments. Remember, I told you today is a big chapter, and I don't want you to fall asleep, so you're participating with me, okay? So I want you guys to answer this question in the comments. The last time I cried out to God, it sounded like what? For example, it sounded like a full prayer. It sounded like a one-word text, a complete silence, tears. I haven't cried out for a while. It sounded like a groan. It sounded inaudible. It sounded like hurt, desperation. What was that? The last time you cried out to God, it sounded like what? It sounded like I gave him all of me. It sounded like a surrender. What did it sound like? The last time I cried out to God, it was actually none of those things. It was immense, overwhelming joy. The last time I cried out to God, it was because he moved in a way in my life that he showed up that I have never seen him in that way before. It was a shout of praise. It was a cry like, it was gratitude. Wow, Rebecca. How is your son? Hurt and surrender, tears of desperation, defeated. These are good words. They don't feel like it in the moment, but you guys are so descriptive. Complete silence. That one is big. Yeah, sometimes when I cry out to God, I don't even make a noise. Sometimes, like the last time I cried to him and it was a cry of gratitude, there were moments where I wasn't even making a noise. But there are times when I cry out to him and I'm not making a noise because I just can't. It's that hurt. Maybe some of you haven't even cried in a while. Some of them, they're just tears. In Isaiah 49, Israel is in a desperate season and they feel forgotten. And they say it out loud, the Lord has forsaken me, the Lord has forgotten me, right? God answers them with this. In Isaiah 49, verses 15 and 16, can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no womb love for the child she has bore? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. I have engraved you into the palms of my hands. The palms of his, I have engraved you into that verse, you guys. That makes me alone want to just bawl. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no womb love for the child she has bore? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. I have engraved you on the palm of my hands. That is Isaiah 49 verses 15 and 16. I want to put that in a banner in my home. That verse to me is like, and you know what? That makes me think of us as mothers, right? Some of us have stretch marks. We have like a reminder how I have bore you. I love you. Though you may forget, I'm not going to forget you. You are engraved. You are engraved on me. Yeah, it's Isaiah 49 verses 15 through 16. But what did he do for us in the palm of his hand? Right? He said, I haven't forgot about you. I have you engraved in the palms of my hands. Yeah. He has that reminder. I love so much that when Jesus went to be with God in heaven, when he ascended into heaven, he could have chose to come back right to us and to be in glory forever with his new body, totally free of anything, and he chose to keep it. He wrote it in Isaiah 49 verses 15 and 16. Okay. I can't even begin to think of how Mary felt. That is beyond yeah. Okay. I could stay in just this section right now because to me, that's one of the most beautiful verses. Okay. Though you might forget, I haven't forgotten you. So that cry in Exodus 22 and the cry in Isaiah 49, they're the same cry. They're for us. They're written specifically for us. I know that we're reading about the Israelites. And he's also talking about a people who were forgotten. But put yourself in this, right? A lot of times we feel forgotten. We feel unseen. You are a person that has been in motion so long that you don't even know what you need anymore. You don't even know how long you've been in motion. All right, Sandra, you have a beautiful day. What he's saying is you're going to get the same answer from the same God. I hear you. That womb love, it moved towards you before you even finished asking. He heard you even before the cry fully came out. He moved towards you even before you finished. It's like your child, like imagine your child falls. You see them, right? You see them doing something they maybe shouldn't have, and you're like, you run to them, and before they are fully have fallen, you're running to them because you know what's going to happen, and you're there before the cry even gets out of their mouth. That's kind of what I envision. I want to sit here for a minute before we go to 23, because for some of us, there's something that comes to mind immediately. You don't have to go searching for it because it's already there. Maybe it's within your business. Maybe you have been building that very faithfully and your content keeps going out. Okay? You are showing up day in and day out, and people keep telling you that they're being helped. And yet the numbers are not where you thought they would be by now. You know all the right things to say. God is faithful. This is a season. Fruit takes time, right? That's what you're telling yourself too. All of those things may be true, but there are moments, usually when no one else is around you, when you wonder if you're maybe missing something that everybody else seems to understand. Why isn't it taking off for you? Why is that person, and I'll equate this to motherhood, right? Why is that person and their children why are their kids so good when they go out to restaurants? Why are they so well behaved? Why do they eat all their fruits and vegetables and they can play and they don't have screen time? Or like, I'm in my job and I can't seem to be moving up. I've just been in this position, or people are applying and they're getting jobs. Like whatever you want to put it, right? You're like, somebody must be doing something else and I'm missing it. I don't understand. You wonder if you're doing something wrong. Like, I wonder how long faithlessness is, or faithfulness is supposed to look like this, right? Maybe it's the calling, right? You said yes to what God placed in front of you, and you have kept saying yes for a very long time, and you're still showing up and you're doing what's right in front of you. And some seasons, they feel so different than others. You guys, I may be describing you, but I'm describing me too. Okay? When I write this stuff, a lot of it is from here. These are seasons where the obedience feels like it's very full. And there's seasons where it feels like it's going to cost something of you. You remember what it feels like when you first began, right? You had so much clarity and conviction, and there's a sense that God had placed something right in your hands. And listen, perhaps nothing has changed except time, right? Because the work is still there and the need is still there. But you're more tired now than what you were then for some reason. Maybe it's in your home, right? Your house is still running and your meals are made. The responsibilities are handled, and from the outside, everything looks fine. You answer the messages, you keep the schedules, you show up where people need you. There are days where you sit down at the end of the night and you realize that you've cared for everybody else all day long, and you can't even remember the last time you stopped long enough to just ask yourself, how are you doing? How am I doing? Right? But then we come to verse 27 and it says, I hear. There are prayers that come in complete sentences, and there are prayers that sound like, Lord, please help me. He hears both of them. Some prayers are spoken in the quietness of the morning, and some prayers are whispered while you're doing the dishes. Some are prayed in the car before walking into another responsibility. I think some of them have never even made it past a sigh. He hears every one of them. There is something so gentle about this passage. God doesn't ask his people to find the right words before they come to him. He doesn't wait for clarity before he listens. He listens first and he moves towards his people. Sometimes the hardest part is not speaking, it's slowing down just long enough to notice what has been asking for attention all along. Okay? When he wrote in that cloak law, it's not just about a piece of fabric. It's about a God who notices what his people need when the day is over and the night begins. He knows what leaves them exposed and what keeps them warm. God cares about both of those things. Okay? I want you guys, if you were with me at the beginning of this live, I asked you a question. I'm going to ask it again right now, okay? How long have you been faithful to something that you haven't seen pay off yet? Is it 5 years, 2 months, this week, 30 years, 50 years? How long have you been faithful to something and you don't feel like you have seen it pay off yet? Oh, thank you. 3 years, 4 years, 7.5 years, 12, 25. I'm going to pray over all of that when we close today. Okay? All right, we're going to get into Exodus 23. We're going to be in Exodus 23. Yeah, I love that mindset. It's paid. It just has its bumps in the road. Yeah. All right. Exodus 23. You guys ready for it? If you guys are just joining, I welcome you. You guys can answer this question too. How long have you been faithful to something that you haven't seen pay off yet? How long is that? And you guys, I guess I forgot to do any of this because we've been in it today. But if you are new, and this is your first time on this live or you are newer, I have a gift for you. I have our replays at the bottom left of your screen. There is a gold icon. You guys can go get those. You can get the replays. I send them out each and every day so you guys can get caught up. You don't have to, because I break it down enough where you're not behind. Even if you just joined this live, you're not behind. So the replays are there. And that gift for you is in there. It's 40 questions as you guys are facing tough decisions. It's a mindset shift. Maybe if I ask it this way, right? And I want to know who you guys are. If you're new, you can put that in the comments. All right, we're going to get into Exodus 23. So God is closing this law. Right now we have been reading from chapter 21 through 23 because they are meant to be read together, not separately. This is one continuous statement from God. Not each individual chapter is something different. It is all one. So chapter 23 is going to open up with more laws. Okay? But stay with this part. Okay? 23, it says, "You shall not circulate a false report. Do not put your hands with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. You shall not follow a crowd to do evil, nor shall you testify a dispute, as to turn aside after many to pervert justice. You shall not show partiality to a poor man in his dispute. And if you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again. And if you see the donkey or one who hates you lying under its burden, and you would refrain from helping it, you shall surely help him with it. You shall not pervert the judgment of poor in his dispute. Keep yourself far from a false matter. Do not unalive the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. And you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the discerning and perverts the words of the righteous. Also, you shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, because you were strangers in the land of Egypt." So chapter 23, that's more laws, right? Tell the truth in court, stand for what's right, even if a crowd moves the other direction, right? Don't conform. Keep your hands clean when somebody offers you money to look away. And then this one, if you see your enemy's animal wandering, bring it back. That's interesting that he says your enemies, right? Think about what that means on a regular afternoon. Someone who hurt you, someone you have a genuine history with, and a genuine reason to just leave alone, their animal or their income or the thing that their family depends on is wandering off, and you see it. You can also see the road home, and God says, bring it back. So here's what God is showing about himself within this law. He acts on behalf of the people before the relationship is restored. Okay? He moves towards good for somebody before they've even earned it. That is his pattern. And that is the same God who is working right now in situations in your life where the other person hasn't earned the outcome that they're about to receive. God moves first, and the relationship, it catches up later. So think about that. Has anyone ever done something right? Like, has any of you ever done something right for someone who didn't deserve it from you? I think for most of us, we'd probably say yes, but some of us might say no. Have any of us ever done something that we were like, ugh, I don't want to do this for you, but like, I'm going to do it because it's right? Yeah. Yeah, God moves first and the relationship follows. Yes. Yep. You did it. And you're like, I got to be that Christian. So then it's going to go on to the Sabbath, right? We spent time in the Sabbath yesterday. You know, I'm passionate about the Sabbath. The law of Sabbaths. So it says 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its produce, but the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the beast of the field may eat. And in that like manner you shall do with your vineyard and your olive grove. 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your oxen and your donkey may rest, and the son of your female servant and the stranger may be refreshed. And in all that I have said to you, be circumspect and make no mention of the name of other gods, nor let it be heard from your mouth. Okay? We're going to spend time in here again. I sometimes I feel like I have to do the Sabbath and the rest element of it, because I can tell you guys, go rest. You're still not going to, right? Like, you can hear it in scripture. It's another thing to actually go do it. I'm going to spend time, because there were also some of you that weren't in here, but I'm going to do it from this perspective, okay? So God just told Israel, for 6 years you plant a harvest, and on the 7th year you're going to stop completely. So the field is going to rest. So whatever grows on its own, it's going to go to the poor and the animals. So essentially, you trust what the 6th year produced, and that it's going to carry you throughout the 8th year, carry you throughout until the 8th year's harvest comes in. So there is going to be a whole year with no harvest of your own. I want you to feel what that required of a farmer in the world at that time. This is a full calendar year where the field that feeds your family, it's going to sit untouched. So the ground that has been producing for 6 years straight, it's just going to rest. Okay? You watch it and you wait and you trust that what's in the storefront is just going to be enough. Israel, they skipped it. They did it for 490 years. Every single time the 7th year came around, they looked at the field and they decided that they couldn't afford to stop. There was too much for them at stake. So maybe after this season, that's what they thought. And they just kept going. But if we go into 2 Chronicles verse 36 through 21, it records the result of it. It says, when God sent Israel into exile, into Babylon, they were taken from their land living as captives. And the Bible says that the land finally enjoyed its Sabbaths. So every Sabbath year, Israel skipped for 490 years. Then the land, it rested all at once. 70 years of enforced rest. 1 year, it collected for every Sabbath year they deferred. So the rest, it didn't appear or disappear. It accumulated. And it all came due at the same time. I want to know what this is like for you guys. You keep telling yourself that you're going to rest after what? After you launch the business, after you hit an income goal, after the kids are older, after the business gets to a certain point. What is that for you? You're finally going to rest when what? What is that for you? I'm finally going to rest when I get through this season, when I hit my income goal. What is that for you guys? I'm going to wait because I want you guys to actually put that in, because this is a very vulnerable moment. And I want you to think truly what that is. You're going to rest when God takes you home? Yes, but rest before that. Oh, that's what you keep telling yourself. Okay. Don't wait till then, you guys. I think a lot of times I tell myself when my kids get older. Jess, I love that you've never thought about that. I love that that's something new for you to think about that. Okay, so I want to speak directly to that. Because a lot of times we wake up in the morning and we start our day with our head running. It's running before our feet even hit the floor, right? We have our phone here and we're checking our messages. Sometimes we just scroll and open up social media, right? But sometimes it's in our hands before we've even said a word to God or to ourselves. We scan the comments from last night, we check the messages, we run through the list. By the time you start your day, you've already been in output mode for probably hours. Or maybe 20 minutes. I don't know what that looks like for you guys. You go in and you do the work, right? You finish. There's client work and there's content to create. There's a house to run. There's kids to get, dinner to make, and a husband to be present for. By evening, your body is done and your brain is still going through what didn't get finished. You fall asleep making tomorrow's list. How many of you do that? No matter how much I try to condition myself not to do, I have to the way that I have taken hold, taken captive my thoughts, I go like this, I smack them away. Literally, when I start, I don't literally smack my head, but I do that in my mind. I'm like, nope. And I smack it away. I'm like, I am not thinking about that right now. I can't. You cannot stop the thoughts from coming. Over time, yes, things will change, but our job is to smack it away, right? Next time you start thinking about something that you're not supposed to, swipe. Okay, try that. Say, nope, you're not getting my time right now. A lot of us have been in this rhythm long enough that it starts to feel like part of who we are within our faith. Some of that is, but somewhere between month 6 and month 18 of this pace that you've been in, the life that used to be the best part of your day, or the part of your life where you really looked forward to, it became just a part of your business, right? The content that you used to even pour out to, it now requires you to sit and wait for it. And that joy that you had underneath the work at the beginning, it's still there. You can feel it, but it started to lessen. It's so much less than what it was. That is a depleted field in this sense, what we're talking about. The output, it's still coming, and the field still looks productive from the outside to other people. The soil underneath it, it's been giving without replenishing long enough that everything costs a little more than what it used to. Okay? That 7th year, it was an act of trust. And it required Israel to believe that God's provision, it didn't depend on their production. That what he already gave them was enough to carry them through. Can you think about that for you in your life? Think about how much you tend to think of your day-to-day as a form of production, right? Your business is like a machine, right? You got to produce. We have to keep going. But what he's asking them is to just trust in that rest. Trust in what he's doing for us, and that he has already given us enough to carry us through. Okay? The year that they stopped, it wasn't a gap in the harvest. It was proof that the harvest was never entirely theirs to begin with. That's what it's showing us. God is showing us something about himself within this law. He built rest into the structure before Israel ever even reached exhaustion. He didn't wait for the land to stop producing and then say, okay, rest now. He wrote that 7th year, just like he wrote day 7 in Genesis, right? He wrote the 7th year into the rhythm from the beginning. I love that he uses the number 7, right? We know that the number 7 is his perfect number of completion. He's showing us again, the work is done. It is enough. It is good. It is on, he is saying rest and trust that I have it covered. God anticipated 6 years of faithful work and that it would cost the land before the land even knew it. He built their provision for before the rest was even needed. The rest that I think we need right now is not a sign that something is going wrong. God already planned for this. That 7th year, it was not a surprise to him. He built it in because he knew that 6 years of faithful work is going to cost you something. So be honest with me right now. When you actually think about slowing down, what's harder to you? I asked you this yesterday. You think? When you think about this, what is harder for you? Is it stopping or believing that the provision is still going to be there when you do stop? Which one is it? Do you still have that same thought? Or what is your thought now that I'm asking you this today? What's actually harder? Actually slowing down or believing that God is going to provide for you? Is it hard to stop or hard to believe? I think, if I'm being entirely honest, I'm not somebody who minds rest. I saw this TikTok the other day of this woman, and she was like, you know where you'll find me? I'm going to eat a meal and you'll find me, like, you can find me in my bed. Like, I always take time to rest. Like, I have a joke with my husband because I'm like, I'm always in bed, right? I eat a dinner. Oh, I'm going to go rest. I take a walk. Oop, let me go rest. I do this live. I'm going to go rest. Rest is not a problem for me. Like, I can physically go lay down and rest. It's the trusting that is hard for me. Trusting that if I were to fully stop, is he still going to provide? Is he still going to provide? I rest to the point where I feel like I am lazy. I know I'm not. I know I'm not, even though it feels like it. Okay, then there's the 3 feasts. Okay, 3 times you shall keep a feast to me in the year. This is Exodus 14 in chapter 23, verse 14. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For you it came out of Egypt. None shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of the labors from the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before the Lord God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. The first of the fruits of your land shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. I don't think I've ever thought to do that. I wonder why they would do that. Okay. So what my commentary says is it's a Canaanite ritual according to excavations as Rosh Hamara. It called for sacrificial kids, like goats, children, because you know how a little goat is called a kid? It called for them to be boiled in milk, but the damaged ancient text doesn't clearly specify mother's milk. If it were so, then it is understandable that Israel was being prevented from copying pagan idolatrous ritualism. Another option suggested that this unalived baby goat was being boiled in the very substance which sustained its life. Hence, their prohibition of it. I don't know why that word was like, what is that? Until more archaeological information comes to light, the specific religious or cultural reasons remain as suspicion. So they don't really know why that's put in there, but I just wanted to highlight because I'm like, that's really interesting. Why would they even do that? Okay. So essentially this section is about the annual feasts. There were 3 of them. So 3 times a year, Israel stopped working and then they came before God. And so what the text says is that they were bringing something with them. There were first fruits, right? The very first portion of the field and what it produced. How many of you go to church and they talk about the first fruits? There was a church that I used to go to. I don't go to it anymore, but they were very big on the first fruits in tithing. So some of you are familiar with the first fruits. I don't know. But the first fruits is the very first portion of the field and what it produced. So before they knew what the rest of the harvest would look like, they gave the beginning even before the end was certain. So they gave the full yield, and that came in They gave before that full yield even came in, I should say, before they knew if that season was going to be abundant or lean, right? They just said, I'm going to give you the best of my first portions. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to give you I'm going to give you it. They brought the first of it to God and they trusted that the rest would follow. So we do this every morning, right? We show up at 9 a.m. We do that when we haven't signed on new clients. Nothing about our day looks different. The comments are slow. The numbers aren't where we thought that they would be by now. And you show up anyway, right? You produce content without knowing if it's going to reach anyone. I use content a lot because that's probably the most relatable to you guys in business, right? You pour out before you have any sort of visible return. That is the feast offering. That is the first fruits brought before the uncertainty of the outcome. God sees every single one of these mornings as an act of worship, every one of them. Are you somebody who shows up before God when things are well with you or when things are falling apart? Which one is that for you? Are you somebody that shows up before God? Gosh, why can't I say this in a fluid statement? Are you somebody who shows up before God when things are going well? Or are you somebody who shows up when things are falling apart? Or are you honestly only there with Him when you need something? You're somebody who shows up when things are going well or when things are falling apart, or only when you need something from Him. There's 3 options. You guys are saying both, but there's 3. You show up when things are going well. That's 1. You think you show up when things are falling apart. That's 2. You show up when you need something. That's 3. Which one is that for you? Oddly enough, I'm usually the one, I would say if I had to pick one over the other, I usually show up to Him more so when things are going well. I think I do that because I'm just excited. And I'm like, let's talk about this, God. Like I like bring like excitement to Him. I do all 3 of them, but if I were to say which one I do more so, it's probably the first one. When I'm going through a struggle, I know that He's there, and I think there's a level of trust to say like, I know that you have it taken care of, or I'm just so focused on the hard part that it's not that I don't bring Him into it. It's like quicker. Like I don't linger in my prayer. I'm like, God, please help me. Or God, please take care of this. Or God, I know you have this. But I usually am like, where I stay in that posture more so is when things are going well. And I do come to Him when I need things. So there's no wrong answer to any of these. I'm just curious what you guys do. So then when we get into verse 20, this is talking about the angels and the promises. So in Exodus 23, verse 20, it says, "Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and bring you into the," goodness gracious, "into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you do indeed obey his voice and all that I do speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angel will go before you and bring you into the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. So that you serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you, nor shall you suffer miscarriage or be a burden in your land, and I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among all the people whom you come, and will make your enemies turn their back to you. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, the Hittite from before you. I will not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. And I will set your bonds from the Red Sea to the sea, Philistia, and from the desert to the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them, nor with your gods. You shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely snare to you. All right, that was a lot, but I wanted to finish that through and through, okay? I want to talk about verse 20. So after 2.5 chapters of very detailed law, God stops and he says, "Behold, I sent an angel before you." Okay? I do. Okay? I sent an angel before you, and it's going to help keep you in your way, which I've prepared. So right now what's happening is this legal code is ending. God closes the entire document with a promise. I need to explain what an angel means here, because I think a lot of us, it's different from what most of us picture, okay? The word in Hebrew, it simply means messenger. So it tells us also that this is no ordinary messenger that God says actually in verse 21. He says, "My name is in him." In that world, a name carried the full identity of a person, right? It's their character, their authority. It was every single thing that they were. When God says, "My name is in him," he is saying, "I am in him. My full presence, my full authority is going to be going before you." So that means that this is not a God sending a representative while he's staying back. This is him saying, "I am going ahead into territory that you haven't reached yet. I'm going into a place that you can't see from where you're standing right now." I want to show you what Jesus said in John 14. Okay, but before I do that, I'm going to show you how this connects directly to this verse. I want you to drop your guesses in the comments. What do you think he said that matches what God just said here in the prepared place? I don't know if you guys are going to guess, okay? What do you think that he said in John 14 that matches what God just said about here in the prepared place? Maybe some of you know. How many of you know that God prepares what? You guys are like, I don't know, Vanessa. I'll just tell you, okay? This is what Jesus said in John verse 14, verses 2 and 3. He said, as he was talking to his disciples the night before he dies, "In my Father's house there are many rooms. I'm going to prepare a place for you. And when I go to prepare a place for you, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take you with me." How beautiful is that? This is that same structure in Exodus 23. He says, "I'm going to go ahead." That place, it's already being prepared. I'm going to come back and I'm going to bring you to where I am. So that angel who goes before Israel in Exodus 23 that we just discussed, and Jesus who goes before his disciples in John 14, they're doing the same thing across thousands of years. That is that same God, and that is that same promise with the same movement. He is going ahead and he's making ready and he's going to come back. So that word for the place in Exodus 23, the place which I have prepared, that means it's past tense. That means it's already done. So that promised land, it wasn't being built in real time while Israel crossed the desert. It was already finished before the journey started. They were walking towards something that God had already been in. Let's bring this to us right now, our everyday life, right? Our life right now. You are creating something that you have never created before, and you're making decisions without knowing how they're going to work. You're creating offers, you're doing your pricing, you're creating products, like whatever that is. You don't even know if they're going to sell. Maybe you're showing up on TikTok, maybe you're going live, maybe you're creating your website, going to vendor events, whatever that looks like. You don't even know who's going to be there. You're in a territory with no map because you've never been there before. You don't have someone who did exactly what you're doing ahead of you right now, right? You're making it up as you go, and you're trusting that what you hear is going to be right, right? You're doing the next thing in front of you, and you're calling it obedience. Underneath all of those things that you're doing on a day-to-day, you're questioning something. It's probably the one that you woke up with and the one that you go to sleep with. Is what I'm walking towards actually there? Is this thing that I have been faithful to, is it actually going to lead somewhere? Or am I just out here? Is this going to mean something, right? Exodus 23, verse 20, is the direct answer to that question. How many of you feel that? I do. I do today. No matter how successful my business gets, I'm still like that. I'm like, is this still? Even though I trust and I know God, right? I know that He is making a way. I am so secure and confident in my calling, but I still question. Is what I'm doing today going to make a difference? Is it worth it? Is it leading towards something? God closes 2.5 chapters of law with a promise. He sends someone ahead with His full presence and His full authority and His full identity into a place that we are walking towards. He says that place is already prepared, and it was prepared before you started moving. You are walking towards something that I have already been in. You are going to a place that He already went. Every single day that you show up and every single morning that you do whatever it is that is on your plate, every piece of content, every client call, every time you show up to the office, every time you mother your children, you are faithful to your marriage, whatever that is, right? You're showing up day in and day out. You don't know how it's going to perform. Like, you don't know how it's going to land with the people that you're putting it out towards, right? Every decision you make without having the full picture, you're walking towards something already finished. The preparation happened before you even took the first step. So some of you typed something in the chat in the beginning of the morning. I asked you, how long have you been faithful to something that you haven't seen pay off yet, right? What is that? What is that for you guys, especially if you joined late? How long have you been faithful to that thing? Years, months, days, hours, seconds, centuries? How long have you been faithful to it and still showing up day in and day out? If you drop something in the beginning, maybe it's the same answer. Maybe it's even a new one. Because we have moved through the entire book of the covenant this morning. That's chapters 21 through 23. The servant laws were in chapter 21, where God built His justice system around a person with no leverage. We stopped at the cloak verse in chapter 22, where God stopped His own legal code to say, I hear you and I am compassionate. The womb love moves towards your cry before it finishes forming, right? Now we are in chapter 23, and He closes the whole document with a promise. He says, I am already ahead of you. The place is prepared. The law to character to promise, that is the arc of it. He brings the law to His character, to His promise. Before we go into our Hearing God Through the Noise challenge, I want to spend a few minutes naming what God showed us about Himself across these 3 chapters, just in case it didn't click for you guys, or maybe you missed it. The legal documents, it's easy to walk away with all of this as just information about laws, right? Without knowing something about who He actually is. God started at the bottom. He organized His entire justice system around the person with the least power in the room. We are in Exodus 21, 22, and 23. Okay? I'm highlighting it for you guys. He started at the bottom, and He organized it around the person with the least power in the room. That was the servant, the stranger, the widow, the orphan, the person who slept cold on one specific night. So every single time there was a choice about who the law would protect most, He put the weight on the person who needed it most. That is his character showing up in the structure of the law. It actually tells us something about where he starts when he looks at the room. He looks at the person who is the most exposed first. So for those of you that are building a business and you're showing up for your families, you feel like you are building something without the full weight, without the full net underneath you. You're making decisions without complete information. You're in a position where the outcome is not guaranteed and the confirmation hasn't come yet, right? That is a very exposed position. That is who God is speaking to. He's speaking to you. He's not just speaking to these individuals he named, he's speaking to us. He built an entire legal system that says, this is how you will be covered. This is who I am, and this is a promise. I will cover you. He's saying, I am a God that is so specific and so intentional that I see every and anything that you are going through, and I have gone before you, and I have prepared a solution for it. God put his name on the ordinary moment. There are 2.5 chapters of law, and God never once stopped to describe himself, and then he gets to a borrowed cloak and a person who might sleep in the cold on one night, and he stops and he says, this is who I am. I am compassionate. I am a God who sees. The love that he gives to us, it moves before the cry even finishes coming out of our mouth. He chose that moment out of everything in these 3 chapters to reveal that piece of himself. The most ordinary, the most unglamorous, and the most specific situation in the entire document. That tells me that our ordinary, it matters to him this specifically. The Friday morning, when the words that you're crying can't even come out, when you hop on a live and there's only 2 people on your live, or the week where you post some content and nothing moves, nobody comments, 2 people say something, where you show up for your kids and they don't recognize, where you make a meal for your husband and maybe he's not as thrilled about it as you would hope, where you forgot yourself, where you forgot to show up for yourself too. Like, God is present in those moments. He's present in those moments just as much as he is in the breakthrough ones. He puts his name on the ordinary the same way that he puts it on that cloak verse, because he hears our cries. So the condition that he put on the hearing is the cry itself, right? Just the cry, whatever shape it comes out in. It could even be just a thought. However vague it is, however tired you are when you come to him, however much it sounded like a long exhale than an actual prayer. We've done that, right? We're like, whew, God. There are times where, like, that's my sound when I'm happy with him and when I'm in distress. Sometimes my cry sounds exactly the same. He is saying, the love that I have for you is the love that a mother has with the baby that's in her womb, right? I see you and I have not forgotten. You are scarred, like, I haven't forgotten. It's written on it's on my palms, right? And it moves before it has even finished being formed. You don't even have to locate the right words right now. You don't have to get it right before he responds. He is already with you in it, and he heard you. He went ahead of you, actually. After every law, after every specific instruction, he closes the entire document by sending someone ahead with his full name and his full presence, his full identity and his authority into a place that you haven't reached yet. That place is already prepared. It was prepared before you started moving today. You're walking towards something that God has already been in. You're going to a place that he already went. I can tell you this day in and day out. I'm sure for some of you, this is not the first time that you've heard me say this. I have to remind you, because as we move in these seasons that are hard, that our cry is just inaudible. You don't come to him perfect. You come to him right now as you are. And he hears you. And he already knows how you feel. Okay? So I want to know, you guys, what is one thing that you're going to take from this morning? What are you going to take with you today? Mine is this. I'm going to read it to you guys again if you missed this part, because it's too beautiful to not read again, okay? Gotta find it first. Where is it in? I think it's in verse 22. I will find it. I thought it was in chapter 22. All right, you guys. I'm not finding it. Maybe it is in 21. I don't think it is, though. I'll probably just scroll up in my notes. Yes, that we are carved into the palm of his hand. But I want to read the verse and I'm like, can't find it. I don't know. Hopefully I can find it in my notes. I have a lot of notes, you guys. Why can't I find it? It disappeared. Either that or I'm skimming too fast. No, I'm literally going to read it to you guys because it's so beautiful. Yeah, you guys help me look. Because I'm not going to do it justice. There are some verses that I remember very well, and others I'm like, nope. Thank you. Dummy. That's why I couldn't find it. I'm over here looking in Exodus, and it's in Isaiah. And I told you guys that probably like 10 times. It's in Isaiah 49, verse 16 and 17. All right. Isaiah 49, verse 16 and... Okay, there we go. Can a woman forget her nursing child and not have compassion on the son of her womb? Surely they may forget, yet I will not forget you. See, I have inscribed you on the palm of my hands. Okay? He's not going to forget about us. That is what I'm taking into today. Thanks for helping me get there. Okay? I'm going to take that with me, and I'm actually going to put it in my house as a little reminder, right? Not that I needed that reminder from him, but just of that verse. Okay? So, we're going to go into prayer, and I want you guys to pray for what you are praying for God to move forward in your life. Okay? Then we're going to go into our Hearing God Through the Noise challenge of day 3. This one is shorter. Okay? You guys can stay with me here. Go ahead and put your prayers in the chat. Okay? So, we're going to close it out in prayer, but that's where we are. So, I'll say this part of it before our prayer as you guys continue to put it in. A lot of us, right, we walked in this morning and we had a lot. Okay? If this morning it reached a part of you that's been faithful for a long time and you felt like you haven't seen the payoff yet, or if that cloak first landed, or if the womb love landed with you, or if God saying that he prepared a way for you landed, there are a community of us women that are building businesses exactly from that foundation. I help guide you through that. I know a lot of you feel like, I don't know how to navigate this on my own. We are a community of women who are building businesses from what God says that they are before they build anything else. That link is in my bio if any of you guys want to explore it. I don't do this very often, but I'm closing down, or I'm opening, oh my goodness, I'm shutting the doors temporarily for Eden and Empire. And if any of you are interested, you'll be going on a wait list. Because what we're doing is we're building it. We're building it with more depth. It's already built, but I'm building more depth so that I can serve you. Okay? That's part of my membership. All right? This is the kind of stuff we do day in and day out. So at the beginning of this morning, I asked you one question, right? I said, how long have you been faithful to something that you haven't seen pay off yet, right? A lot of us answered that before we even knew what we were going to cover today. You answered it out of your real life, right? Whether you typed a number or a season or a word, that was the honest thing that came from you, right? Here's what the book of the covenant showed us this morning about that answer. God built his entire justice system around the person that was they were in the most exposed position, the person who had no leverage. They didn't have anybody else on their side, and he put the legal weight there. He goes to the most exposed person in the room every single time. That Sabbath year, it required Israel to stop producing for a full year and just trust what God gave them was enough. The provision, it didn't come from their output, it came from them. The year that they stopped was proof of that. A lot of us have been skipping that Sabbath, the seventh year, right? The rest that you haven't taken, it hasn't disappeared, it's waiting for you. God heard your cry before you found the right words for it. Isaiah 49, that's for you, when he speaks about his love for you. That cloak verse, that's for you. Because the hearing isn't contingent on the quality of your cry. It was contingent on the cry in and of itself. So the question that you guys walked in with this morning, that I've asked you time and time again, I asked you, is what I have been leading, or is what I have been faithful to actually leading somewhere? I asked you guys that too. The book of the covenant, chapters 21 through 23, it closes with the answer. He sent someone ahead. His full presence goes before you. That place is already prepared. You have to take that first step. But it was already prepared even before that. You are walking towards something that God has already been in. You are going into a place that he already went to. Know that you are covered as you continue to step each day, because God has you. All right? So continue to put in your prayer requests. Okay? Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for going ahead of us and preparing a place. For the woman who feels like she doesn't know exactly where her life is leading her, I pray that she feels comfort knowing that you have already been in that place. You know exactly where she is, and your promise shows us that you see her. That you see her ordinary moments, her day-to-day, the things that go unseen by others, you know them. You have walked ahead of her. You have been in the scenario, and you have prepared a place, knowing every need that she is going to have when she gets there, knowing every need that she has right now, that you hear the cries that she has, and that you have not forgotten about her. They are etched into the palm of your hand. That even though what it feels like in her day-to-day may not be producing much, it is everything to you. You see her in those unseen moments that she feels invisible to everyone else. Please remind her that what she is doing is worthy. That the work that she puts into her business, her family, her friends, and her faith, they are not going unnoticed by you. That you are El Roi, you are the God who sees. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for being that safe place for us to land. Thank you for being the eagle for us, that we are on your back, that you are our wings and you are guiding us day in and day out. As we walk through something new, thank you for being there with us. I pray that she knows that she has a community to support her within everything, whether that's her friends, her family, or here. I pray that she feels loved today and seen just a little bit extra, that your word is a comfort to her. Thank you for all you do for us, Father. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. All right. We're going to move into our Hearing God Through the Noise challenge. Okay. This is day 3, but if you are new here and you are just showing up, you are more than welcome here. Okay. Next week, so I do this every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Next week, so I have gone deep into the depths of this challenge. And I was like, you know what? There's a piece of this that feels like it just needs just a little bit more. So I added more. So while you may have finished days 1, 2, and 3 before, come back for that next week. Okay? There is more to it that will help with the clarity and understanding of not only why we are doing this, but how it can touch right here and here. Okay? If you are new here and you just joined this live, I go live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central. I usually go for about 2 hours. And in that, I give you all the replays because I never want you to feel like you are missing anything or behind. They are available for you. On the bottom left of your screen, there is a gold icon. You can go there and get that. The gift, the live replays. And I actually need to put day 3 challenge on here. So let me do that really quick. Every day, I'm forgetting to put it on here. I'm like, what the heck? What is up with my brain? Usually I'm just like in la la land before I start my live. I'm like, let's check the audio, check the lighting, check all these things, and then I forget to check that. Okay, so I'm going to put day 3 of Hearing God Through the Noise challenge, and I give that to you because it has more information. It has the replays, and what is my screen doing? Let me know when you guys can see day 3, okay? But the new live viewer thank you should be on there, the Hearing God Through the Noise, and the replays. They're all in that little section with the gold icon. It should be there for you. Oh, I'm surprised TikTok didn't like scream at you. My volume was like all the way up somehow. I'm glad it didn't. Sometimes I open up TikTok and you never know what you're going to, it's like a roulette. Like you never know what's going to come up on your screen. It's like, oh my goodness, why is this even on here? I don't even look at that. That's how it feels sometimes. That's why I'm like, I better make sure I mute because you never know what's going to land on your For You page. So we're going to go into day 3 of Hearing God Through the Noise. Okay, what this is a 3-day challenge where I help you silence the noise that you tend to hear. We call it interference, right before you walk in the fullness of your obedience, right? God puts us all on assignment. And before that, noise comes in, right? There are 2 layers to what we do. There's the neuroscience element of it, so you guys can understand why we operate in the way that we do. And there's scripture. Everything I do with the women that I coach in my community is that. Actually, the community has 3 layers. It has neuroscience, it has scripture, and it has real world business strategy. So there's always 3 layers to any teachings that I give you. I actually do, it's very similar to what we do in our Bible studies. Okay, so day 3, we have walked through understanding what the interference is. I gave you 5 interference patterns. When you come back next Wednesday, there's 7 of them total. I added 2 more. And I also added a counter for your secondary. Okay. How many of you guys were here on days 1 or 2, or you've been on all of them? What day are you catching this? Is it day 1, day 2, or day 3? When was the first time you saw this challenge? You saw all. Okay. That is totally fine if you are on day 3. Make sure that you go get the replays, okay? I'm not going to go through days 1 and 2 like I normally do just because we've been on here for about almost 3 hours, and I want to honor your time. All right? So day 3 is where we are at today, but you guys can get all of the replays to bring you back up to speed. So day 3, what are the things that you provide? I provide everything you need. The replays to catch you up to speed, all the counters, all the things. All right? All right, so day 3, it's not about learning something new. It's about changing how you move when the noise shows up. Okay? I want to say something because I think a lot of you have been waiting to hear this piece. God doesn't wait for the silence to lead you. Oh, okay. Let me do that before I go deep into it. The community covers 3 levels. It covers neuroscience, right? The way that our minds work, and scripture, and real world business strategy. There's actually more than 3 layers, but those are the primary ones. Okay? What we're doing today is showing you how to move even when the noise comes up. Because we know that God doesn't wait. You guys are being put on the wait list for like 2 weeks. That's it. Because year round it's always open, and I do that very intentionally because I'm not somebody that's trying to sell you something. I want you to come into it because it's an actual transformation, not just business coaching. We are walking with God, right? I will give you guys my little thing that I created. I told you it yesterday, but since some of you are new, I'll tell you more about what it is at the end of this, okay? So stay on. If you're like, I'm kind of interested, I want to hear what that actually is, I'll dive deeper into it, okay? God wants to lead us through the noise. Because if silence was required before obedience, most of Scripture actually wouldn't even exist. So here's actually what happens for most of us as we're walking through that. So when things feel uncertain, when you can't get still enough, and when the interference is so loud, we tend to wait, right? You think that if you could just get more focused or more sure or more settled, then you would move, right? Like that feels like that's what we do, right? It's responsible. It feels like, yep, that makes sense. It's actually like, but what that actually does is it hands the interference exactly what it needs, which is time. Jesus says in John 10 that his sheep know his voice. He doesn't say that they strain for it or that they wait until everything else goes quiet. He says that they recognize it. The recognition is relational. It's not something that you achieve just by going quiet. It's something that develops through proximity and presence to him. So if you've been waiting to feel certain before you move, that's not part of your faith. That is interference doing what it was designed to do. So the neuroscience behind it is this. When our brain senses uncertainty, it looks for safety. So for those of us that carry a lot, right? So many of you raised your hand even just in this Bible study today. We carry a lot of things. Safety, that tends to look like waiting and thinking longer and needing more confirmation or trying to get it exactly right before it goes anywhere. How many of you do that? Okay. I do that a lot of times. That's what feels settling to me. Spiritually, that can feel like discernment to some of us. Neurologically, that's actually avoidance. That tells me that the noise that you're hearing, it's not proof that you need to stop. It's a signal that your system needs to be reoriented towards God. You are not needing more information right now. I'm going to tell you, if I told you, I gave you one more piece of information about your business or your calling, would that be the thing that made you move? If I said, this is the thing that's causing you to stall out. You just need to go live on TikTok 5 days a week. Would you be like, okay, I'm going to do it? More often than not, it's not that. It's not that you need more information. It's that your nervous system needs to be reoriented to God. Now, I say that because you can do all of those things, and when you're not getting the results that you want and things aren't moving in the way that you imagine, you're going to go right back into that place again of waiting, of needing more proof, of needing more information, more confirmation. It's going to bring you right back to where you were until your system is settled into who God is, into what He is calling you to do, until the noise is quieted down in your mind and you have tools, right? You don't need the noise to disappear. You just need to know what to do when it shows up. I'm going to ask you guys, when I think about what God is asking me to do, the thought that stops me most is what? Is it fear? Is it lack of resources? Is it lack of knowledge, information, the capacity, support? What is that? When you think about what He's asking you to do, why haven't you done it in the fullness of it? It's a mix, honestly. I thought about that the other day. Is what I'm doing like therapy? It kind of is. We have to understand why we do the things we do to stop doing them. I haven't ever found anybody that helps me to understand why I operate in the way that I do and how God calls me to it and what He says in Scripture. So I was like, yeah, I guess I do a little bit of that to answer your question. Is it what if I'm wrong? Like the thing that stops me is what if I'm wrong? Or I need more confirmation, or I don't trust myself, or what are people going to think? I want you to look at what comes through after you type that. That is not a coincidence. That is interference having run its pattern for so long. And that you seeing those things that come in, that is interference running the pattern on all of us at the same time. Even if you guys haven't said anything in the comments, interference is coming in the form of like an excuse. I guess you could think of interference as kind of like an excuse. The reason why we aren't stepping into the fullness of what God created us to do. So what we're going to be doing today is not to try to silence the thoughts. We're going to change how we operate when they show up. There's 3 parts to this, and none of them are complicated, okay? None of them are complicated. The first thing that you're going to do when you hear that noise is notice it. Notice it for what it is. Notice that it's noise. I don't want you to analyze it or correct yourself for thinking of it. Notice it. I say that simply because just noticing it, that act, it already interrupts that loop that your mind is going to continue to play. Okay? That single act, it already places you from being inside of it to observing it. The second thing that you're going to do is you're going to orient. You're going to say, God is with me here. Not after you figure it out. Not after you feel better. Here, right now, He's with you in this moment. Because your nervous system, it needs settling, and it settles through presence, not with more answers. That's why I said I could give you as much information as you want. It's not going to settle you. You need the presence, right? It settles through presence, not through answers. God doesn't step back when things feel unclear. He stays. The third thing is to move. So you ask, what is the next faithful step with Him? You don't have to see the full plan of what He's doing or the outcome. Not everything that it's going to become. You just take that next faithful step. You do it scared. You do it confused, uncertain, intimidated, accused. When you're comparing yourself to other people, you do it even still. Okay? So I want to do this together. Okay? Think of the thing that God has been asking you to move towards. The one that you keep coming back to. The one that comes up with the most noise. You're going to notice the noise. Okay? That thought that you have. You're going to orient to His presence. You're going to say, God is with me here. And then you're going to say, what is that next faithful step? What is that step for you guys? And I just want you to choose one. Just one. It could even be just one word. What are you going to do next? Is it email? Is it outline? Is it apply? Is it schedule, post, record? Or even simply just say yes? What is that thing for you guys? That is the movement. That's what today is about. I want to tell you why this works over time, okay? Confidence, it doesn't come before the confidence or the obedience. It comes from a level of obedience that is practiced with God. Your brain, it actually learns through repetition, not insight. So your faith, it strengthens through participation. You don't have to have certainty in everything. You just have to participate with God. So every time you move through the noise, instead of waiting for it to stop, you're teaching your nervous system that God is trustworthy in motion. You're not waiting to become somebody who can do this. You're learning how to move with Him as you are right now. That's why I tell you, you don't need that noise to be quiet. You need a way to respond when it shows up. The way that you do that is by movement. Movement restores clarity. Okay? That's what these 3 days gave you. I didn't give you a formula or a system. It is a way to move with God when every single thing in you just wants to wait. Good morning, Henry. Okay? That's what the Hearing God Through the Noise challenge is. Come back again next Wednesday for it. Okay? If you're not able to do any of the other lives, the Bible studies, come back for that. I'm going deeper into it. And then I want to make sure that you guys check your email and ensure that you got signed up for this so you get the replays. Okay? Because everything that we covered is in there, including the counters from day 2. So you have it all in one place. All the replays from days 1 and 2 and today. And I want you to have it so you can come back to it. I want you to keep going. And if you guys want to go more in depth with it and keep building in a community of women that are doing the same thing, I've built something for you. Okay? I'm going to read to you what Eden and Empire is so you guys understand it in the fullness. Okay? Eden and Empire, it helps women discover who God created them to be and build from that place. Right? You love God and you want to be present for your family. You believe that you're called to something more. How many of you know that you're called to something more? I would say that's probably all of you, all 300 of you, right? You are called to something more. I don't mean go do more, right? Not what the world tells you, more. God is calling you into something deeper. And somehow, those 3 things, your faith, your family, and your business, they feel like they're constantly pulling against each other. You know that God has placed something inside of you. Maybe that's a business. Maybe it's a message. Maybe it's a calling. It's a calling that you've been carrying for years and you haven't fully stepped into it yet. And you want clarity and you want confidence, right? You want to know that you are moving in the right direction. But most of all, you just want to stop feeling like you're constantly behind. Eden and Empire, it's a guided discipleship and a business pathway for women who want to become the woman that God created them to be and build from that place. That version of you that has clarity, that is walking and thriving and not spending time in those loops in her mind telling her that she's not enough, that she doesn't know what she's doing, that she's less than. To settle your spirit into who God is, to orient it in Him, to understand how He actually called business to be. You're going to walk through a journey over 12 months. It's designed to help you understand who God is and His character, because that changes how you lead, how you live. You're going to heal those beliefs that you have, even the ones that we covered today, that you are too far behind, that you are not good enough, that you are not worthy. Whatever that is, right? The wounds, the thought patterns that keep you stuck. You're going to discover who God created you to be, because all of you have a very unique design. You have gifts, you have talents, you have life experience, strengths. You all have a very specific calling on your life. There is no framework that I could give you that is going to be the exact same for each and every one of your lives, because each and every one of you were designed with your own framework. You're going to gain clarity on who you were called to serve. You're going to learn how to communicate your message to them with confidence and build a business that aligns with your life instead of competing with it. Okay? Because your faith and your family and who you are as a woman, they're not in competition with one another. You are so much more than just a business owner. You're going to create rhythms and systems and structures that honor both your family and your calling. Right? Your family deserves your time. There's no such thing as balance. You're going to learn how to integrate them. You're going to lead with a greater impact and influence and stewardship, right? Because it's not just another business program teaching you how to hustle harder. It is the opposite of that. I call you to rest. I call you to lead from a place of wholeness, to remember who you are. Your worth isn't found in your dollar amount, your revenue, your social media following. It's more than that. It's also not just another Bible study, even though we incorporate scripture. It's a place where your faith and your identity and your calling and your family and your business can all come together. You go through a very simple rhythm each month. You learn, you study, you apply, and you integrate. And we do it as a community. You receive new curriculum, a deeper Bible teaching. You get me weekly, and you get guidance. And you get support and a sisterhood and a community that will come alongside you. We're going to help you see the things that maybe you can't from inside the place that you are. Information isn't just the goal. The transformation is. Okay? I want to tell you the goal isn't to become somebody else. The goal is to become the woman that God created you to be and faithfully steward what He entrusted to you. That is your faith, your family, your business, and you as a woman. Okay? When that happens, your business stops feeling like something that you're trying to force. It becomes an expression of who God designed you to be all along. So the reason why it's named Eden, an empire, Eden is discovering who God is, who you are, and learning to build from a place of trust and identity and relationship with Him. The empire piece, it's what happens when that foundation begins to shape the way that you lead and you serve and you build and you steward what God has entrusted you with. Okay? That is what that is. We have to come to our business from a place of wholeness. So it is for all of you ladies that are interested. And there is a wait list, and I can't keep that from you guys anymore. I can't be like, I'm too nervous, or that's me stepping out boldly and telling you, because I believe in it so much. All right? This challenge that we did, that is just a small piece of the transformation that I help you guys with. That is month 1. We go deep into it like that. Okay? So if any of you are interested, I have the Kingdom Mandate, and it goes a little bit more in depth. That's also in the bottom left corner, that gold icon. You guys can check that out. But I am going to open up a wait list, and when it's ready, I'll let you guys know. Okay? And if any of you are interested, will you DM me? You can put it in the comments here too, but you can DM me so that way I message you. I do need to say this, I don't want to confuse any of you. My Bible studies are free. Our weekly prayer calls, they are free. Our community on Facebook, that's free. Eden and Empire, that is our paid membership. Okay? That is our membership. What I give to you guys, it's so much. It's so much. It's so in depth. That is our paid membership. And I go deep in that with you guys. And we are a sisterhood. Like, the reason why it's closed for 2 weeks is because I am writing more depth into it. There's so much more that I'm putting into it. And I'm like, you know what? I just need a minute. I need a minute to go to the depths of it before I'm like, we are leveling up. So that's what that is. All right? All right, so if you guys haven't had a chance to get your email, make sure you go and get it. That way you can get days 1, 2, and 3 of the replay. That's my gift to you. I know it's Friday. That means I will see you guys back here on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central. Okay? You all have You can say whatever you want. I'll just know what you guys are talking to me. You can say interested. You can say membership, whatever you want to say. Whatever you guys want to put in there, I'll just know what you're talking about. If you say I'm interested in your products and services because there's a button for that, I won't know because sometimes you guys accidentally hit that. So you can just either put it in here, you could put it in the DM, whatever that looks like. Okay. I guess I can tell you, it's not a secret. I also want to give you guys all the information too. Okay. It's either $97 a month, and you guys get access to the whole community and all the things that are going to be in it, which I will have outlined on my website because there's so much depth in it. Or $400 a month for one-on-one coaching with me, in addition to all the other stuff. Weekly one-on-one coaching, which is like insane in the sense of, I know that's not a lot. For some of you, it may be, but that is my gift to you as we continue to grow, okay? So I just need to put that out there for you guys. The Bible studies and what we do every day, Monday through Friday, that does not change. That is always available to you guys, okay? I will absolutely pray for your friend Elizabeth, okay? I pray for you, Elizabeth, and your family. You will be in my prayers. All right. I am sending you all hugs and love. I'm going to go eat lunch. It's noon here. And you all have a beautiful Friday and an amazing weekend. I will see you on Monday.